All right. Welcome, family, to another wonderful, entertaining, edutainng edition of We All Be News Free Dixie for the 21st century. I'm your host for this empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2, the artivist. And it's been an interesting week. Like Wednesday, right now, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and we are bracing for a some type of whirlwind, tornado, high winds, and all this other stuff. Power has already been knocked out in certain parts of Memphis, including my part. I'm in downtown, near the site of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the crucifixion martyr site of that. But power has been knocked out in certain parts of Memphis. They are expecting winds up to 25 to 30 miles per hour, even up to 60 miles per hour, what I'm told. So we are bracing for whatever is going to come, because there is no such thing as normal. Normal does not exist in the English vocabulary anymore. There's no such thing as normalcy. It is what it is in 2022. So hopefully we can keep the power on for this show. It's a very important show. We got the return of the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, the people's champ, people's favorite advocate for truth and for manhood, and also for womanhood. And we also got a special guest, the Honorable Sister Vice Mayor Virginia Rivers of Mason, Tennessee. She's going to provide us a little bit of an update, and also chat with the judge during this hour. So hopefully the judge can come on. I know that he's in an area where there have been issues with power sometimes when it comes to inclement weather. But hopefully he could get us on. I don't know if the judge is in Memphis right now. Judge is always moving around, but he's excited about doing the show. And I know he have his issues with the StreamYard platform as it relates to whatever he's trying to do, set up. But I know he'll be on. We keep the faith, baby, and we all be. But without further ado, I want to bring on Sister, the Honorable Vice Mayor, Mason, Tennessee, the one and only Sister Virginia Rivers. How you doing, sister?
Fine. How are you?
I'm all right. Just bracing for whatever's going to come.
Yeah,
I know they let school out early here and stuff like that. How y'all doing in Mason?
we're doing all right. They let the schools out early here as well.
Oh wow! So I don't know what to expect, man. It's like it's Old Testament stuff going on right now.
Well, you never know what the Lord gonna do.
And also, I understand you're a minister as well too. You anointed.
Yes, sir. I'm a minister.
Yeah, so it was an honor to meet you this past weekend as people was canvassing the neighborhood to try to alert the folks about what was going on with the issue of Mason, Tennessee, the state takeover of Mason, Tennessee. I know y'all been having it out with Jason Mumpower, the comptroller of Tennessee, as it relates to the city's charter, about them trying to take over your finances. I know I just uploaded a video we did over the weekend, and people are really talking about it. And you've been doing a great job as being a spokesperson for this cause and being the face of this movement. So how you feeling today?
I feel good. I mean, in spite of what we going through, what we face with, each day I wake up. I wake up thanking God and asking Him just to give me the strength to stand against whatever comes up. Comes my way.
So have there been any updates since the weekend? Like, have y'all met with anybody, state representatives, or anything like that, officials?
We haven't met with them, but we have received a letter from Munpower office stating that pretty much everything is still the same in the previous letter, except for the amount they want us to pay. At first, it was 22,134 per month. They want us to pay that up front before we paid anything. Well, they have reduced it after verifying our numbers and realizing that we were uh, had been paying on the debt and had gotten it down lower than they had posted. They decided to go ahead and lower it to 9,000. One is 9,654 a month, which
Okay.
still has to be paid up front before we can pay any bill. And the way they really got it structured, as far as their demands on the town, requiring that nothing can be purchased or paid, whether either way, for any amount that's over $100. Um, is still there. We can't apply for grants unless, and of course, they approve it. So, with that being said, it's like they still are trying to, physically, they are trying to dominate us as far as keeping us under their power. So it to me, it's like setting us up to fall. Uh, because if you're making the kind of demands on us and then telling us that we can't make purchases or anything of that nature
Mhm.
unless we get contact them or and they approve it. Of course, they apply phone numbers to our CMFO in case we do emergency we have to call. But there, like today, what if, God forbid, a disaster happened? They
Mhm.
want us to call them before we react or before we do anything. That's not how you do business. That's not how we need to be able to function. We need to be able to handle whatever the town needs, whatever arises. Because at the, and again, I said it before and I'll say it again, it's like they're setting us up in a position that they hope we will fail.
Okay, and have no fear, I guess, because Judge Joe Brown is here. Hey, Judge, how you doing?
All right. How's everyone today?
Fine. How are you, Judge?
I'll
No, we
manage.
bracing for something spectacular, I guess, or monstrosity. I don't know, man. The weather's crazy.
If you check to see who is investing in or purchasing land or attempting to get zoning variances in the land between where Mason is and where this Ford factory is going to be?
We already know that it's the county mayor, Jeff Huffman, who has already purchased.
550 acres, is it?
It's over 300. I know somewhere between 300 and 500 acres,
Mm.
and
Okay.
between
Well,
Mason
I
and the
would
Blue Oval.
suggest that you go a little deeper. See, what's going on is we have some
Well,
developers
he's
around
not
here in
only
the Memphis area.
he's not only the
I
county.
know, but I'm just saying, go a little. I know who he is. I'm giving you some clues as to something to look for.
Mhm.
I've done some research on it because I'm running for mayor of Memphis in 2023. So there are some developers in the Memphis area that actively opposed putting the Ford plant in Memphis. Why? Because the price per acre of land to either lease or acquire and have fee simple absolute in it is a lot more expensive in Memphis than it is where you are in Mason. They are angling to get the contracts to actually do the construction on the plant. And more important than the plant is the fact that if they bring in 27,500 employees, as Ford is talking about, on average, 2 out of every 3 of those employees are going to have a family situation. So that's going to be 3 to 4 people, maybe 5 people for families, which means that you're going to have a town built centered on Mason that's going to accommodate between 50 and 100,000 people. In other words, it's going to be bigger than Jackson, Tennessee, and built in about 5 years, and that's going to be billions of dollars into the usual suspects we pockets that we have here in Memphis, which is why they want it up there. Mason is an outlet for sewage and water in the area. So rather than having to duplicate that, they want to take the geographical location of Mason, and it's already interesting position relative to infrastructure so they can develop it on the cheap. But do you know how much money is involved when you're talking about building Jackson, Tennessee in 5 years where you are, and they want to run you people out of political control? See, where you sit is going to be where there is a very deep pocket, which is going to produce enormous property tax revenues. It's going to produce enormous amounts of corporate income tax, of which local areas get a share. So not only are they trying to usurp your political control, they're trying to situate themselves where they can be ideally situated for development. Now, the mayor you're talking about, who's bought anywhere from 300 to 550 acres or of land to be developed, is already in negotiation with these people about coming in and dealing with it. And Brother Ron, you and I have talked about who those suspects are. They're into real estate acquisition, real estate management, real estate development, construction, and construction material supply. So they want to get in control of some real property. Then they're going to try and get the governmental entity to subsidize the corporate entity, which in this case is Ford, by saying, we're so happy to have all of these job opportunities in Tennessee that we will help you pay for this. So they get money dumped in their pockets from Ford and the Tennessee government, and perhaps from your county, so that they get paid for building this addition to your area, a new town, a city, and the factory, and they will get to operate it. And you see, when you build a factory, that's one thing. 27,500 people, that's a whole different order of business. And when you get 27,500 people, and you talk about Kroger, Walgreens, Whole Foods, CVS, movie theaters, Burger King, Mickey D's, Wendy's, or this, that, and the other pizza place, and all it takes to deal with that, you're talking 50 to 100,000 people. And just imagine what the typical house is going for here in West Tennessee that's going to accommodate 4 people who are making not $5 an hour, not $15 an hour, but upscale. And they're going to want someplace to bring workers in from outside the state, because they are not thinking about hiring folk from Memphis who have a 45-minute drive up there. There's no traffic, probably an hour and a half realistically. Will they move there? Maybe, but they still have to be accommodated. So that's what is being done to you up there. And all of this other stuff is just your typical machination that you, if you examine what's been going on in Memphis and Shelby County for the last 60 years, 50 years, you'll see it. Now, you people, please keep political control, because you sit on what could be a mecca in about 25 to 30 years. You see, in 20 years, the Census Bureau of the United States is predicting that there will no longer be a majority ethnic or racial group in America. Black folk won't be the biggest minority. It'll be the Hispanics, which are broken down actually into other ethnic groups besides speaking Spanish, and our old allies and old enemies, white folk. Now, I have a good Hispanic tailor who is from Argentina. She's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and her parents are from October Deutschland, yeah? And one of them was a good German during World War II. Now, that being the case, she's also classified as Hispanic, like my late stepmother, who was Filipino, Catholic, and Asian, and she's classified as Hispanic. So they've got this artificial group based on language that is being classified as an ethnic group. And frankly, I don't trust the U.S. government when it comes to that. I think they've got nefarious motives, but we're going to have a problem. Now, with Mason being where it is, Memphis being where it is, you are going to have this Ford plant, which is going to have 27,500 employees, according to the Ford site. Cadillac has opened up one in West Tennessee. Beretta opened up a factory. They're moving their manufacturing from Massachusetts down here, and they will be making 76 millimeter cannon for the Navy. They are still making their line of pistols, and they have some other things that they make that they sell around the world. They are, in fact, the oldest firearms manufacturing business in the world. They've been open over 500 some years. So they are coming down here. Now, the interesting thing is that Memphis is the distribution capital of the world. Not the world, of the United States and of Canada and of Mexico. And all of these electric cars that Cadillac and Ford are going to be making will pass through Mason on the way down I-4 to I-40 to get to Memphis. And if these clowns here get straightened out, you will have barge traffic going in reverse. But President's Island has the world's largest barge unloading facility. And in Europe, they load these barges up. They put them on ocean-going barge transports. They come over to the port of New Orleans, drop the rear hatch, float the barges out, get them a tow, bring them up to Memphis. And when they get them unloaded in President's Island, that's when they first run them through customs. Now, essentially, those barges go back downriver unloaded. So what some people have anticipated that Memphis is not getting in on top of is that those barges could be loaded with these vehicles made at Ford and Cadillac and brought back down, shipped over to Europe. Some of them unloaded in the Mediterranean. Some of them stay on these barge transports, go through the Suez Canal, and get into Asia. Now, Ford and Cadillac are attempting to get in on the ground floor with electric vehicles. And that would require an increase in infrastructure of charging stations and all of that. The governor of the state of Tennessee has a huge financial investment in a firm that is supplying a lot of the parts that will be used by Ford for their batteries. So there is a cabal that goes from top to bottom in probably the most corrupt state in the United States when it comes to these things, to get in on the ground floor of these kind of deals where they can hustle the taxpayers' money. Right now, you ought to be pushing in Mason to put in a campus for UT, because UT is getting a federal grant that is being matched by Ford to take the students out of high school. The ones that are coming out this year, this spring, will be in these STEM classes, science, technology, engineering, and math, for about 4.5 years, which is just about when this plant's going to start kicking over into its initial production phase. So we are not getting any black students recruited because they've already started it. And see, somebody, and wow, did I get cut off, or I'm still on?
You're on
Somebody
right
tried
now.
to call. But
You're
anyway,
out. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yeah.
You can hear me. I can't hear you guys anymore, but let's see what happens. See, these are the things that we have to take into consideration. And that's the Turleys, the Belts, Fogelmans, and so forth down here. Check and see if they're trying to get up there, because from what I'm hearing down here, they are.
Well, Judge,
and that means that you're going to get a lot of your local people are going to get, what is in it for me. And it ought to be something in for the whole group of people.
Judge.
Now,
hello?
That's what I think is about to happen where you live, and what you're sitting on is a great opportunity, or as a moment of a great ripoff.
Judge, can you hear us? Can you hear now?
So look into those things. They have to make disclosures someplace. I'm retired. I'm an old man. I'm everybody's granddaddy. I'm in my mid-70s. So, I don't get paid for this, don't need to, but it is what it is. So I'm just saying, I've seen this before. I studied it years ago at UCLA in their political science department, and it is one of those things that we have to be cognizant of.
The judge.
Now, I can't hear anybody.
Okay, well,
I can see your lips moving.
Wait, we're gonna do something right quick. Let me see.
Okay.
Judge, can you hear now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I don't hear you.
You can't hear us?
I'm all the way up on the sound.
Okay, let me see something. Oh man, this is interesting. I know it's weather be crazy, but there's a lot of good information Judge putting out here. Let me see. Hey, Judge. Let me see something.
You can hear me.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, but you can't.
But
hear
I can't hear you.
Okay, you can hear me.
I have no sound.
You have no sound. You want to take out your earphones? You can take off your headphones. Take off your headphones. Take off your headphones.
I can't read lips too well, so.
Okay.
I mean, but this is my microphone. That's how I'm talking to you.
In the microphone and the headphones?
Somebody's saying here, Dana, I do a show with, she says, drop out and come back in. Let me try that to see if I can get back on.
Okay, that's great. That great.
Might be the best way to do it.
Thank you, Sister Dana. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll give Judge about, but yeah, you time to talk, but what Judge keep on saying, I want to tell Judge, this is not just a factory. This is they building Detroit 2.0 down here. It's Detroit. I actually went down to that site. I took the long way around to Stanton. And like, they building like a city. It's not Jack. They building Detroit. They're trying to get what they got wrong with Detroit right down here. But my problem is, I don't feel like nobody of color, black people, ain't gonna benefit from all these billions of dollars coming in. It's not gonna be directed towards us, and it's quite possible they could take y'all off the map and just expand. That's why I'm looking, because I went down there. It was crazy to see all that land. They cleared all those trees. They got the multi-million-dollar machines clearing the land, and I went all the way to as far as I could go. And I was coming back up the road. This scary white man in the pickup truck. Came out and said, "What? You got a problem?" I said, "I don't got no problem getting the hell out of here. I'm going home. I mean, I'm going back this way, dude. I ain't trying to go. I already went to the end of the road. I'm coming back around." But it's like, let me see. We put Judge back in.
I'm back in. I can hear you.
Can you hear us? You hear
I
us?
hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to tell you something, Judge. You keep on saying factory, like you said, Jackson. They're building Detroit down there. I was down there on that site on Saturday, and they clearing so much land. They trying to build Detroit, and also. They got a battery factory connected to it.
That governor has a heavy investment in
right. It's two governors though. I mean, but there's nobody. The judge.
I'm talking about the governor of the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, and also Kentucky too, because Kentucky, the battery
got an investment in there. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Judge. I want to tell you this because this is why it's so important that we need people like you to be advocates in the office. There are no black politicians in West Tennessee standing by Mason, Tennessee. I'm talking about in the state level. They have no friends in the state level, no friends at the federal level. Because I mean, they can eminent domain this Mason, Tennessee. They can literally wipe Mason, Tennessee out the map, and all the billions of dollars coming in ain't gonna benefit black folk because there's no.
See, this is what the deal is. The Black Caucus for Tennessee did do something useful. 11 o'clock one evening last week. They got the comptroller to acknowledge that the charter did not come through the comptroller's office, but came through the state legislature. So the comptroller is running off his ignorant mouth talking about he's going to surrender. What they were trying to do to Mason is to get Mason to pay off the debt, then seize the charter and leave them with no political control. That is, when black folk get political control, then you either co-opt them or you disenfranchise their control. They become part of another unit of which they are a minority. Now, yes, I agree with you. They're trying to do a Detroit because remember, Detroit is part of the Rust Belt now. Most of the cars they build in Michigan are built up in Lansing. Mm-hmm. And the weather's a lot better down here, a lot warmer. It doesn't get freezing cold like it does up in Lansing. And this is a new technology. They're trying to establish a world market. They want to get into Asia, China. They want to get into some other places, and they're trying to cook up a deal with China about battery technology. So you're right about this being the start of a Detroit, but the point I'm making is as a minimum, to run this factory, they're going to have a town that has about 100,000 people in it within 5 years.
They building
Now,
it.
with all of that infrastructure that they're building, who do you think are bringing into billions of dollars, raking into billions of dollars? They get paid for building it. It's not going to be a construction company brought in from Michigan. It's not going to be one from Ohio. It's going to be our local usual suspects who've been ripping off the people in this county, Shelby, this city, Memphis, for a long time.
That's right.
Now, that's what's happening. Think all the movie studios and the fast food places and all this other stuff. Think of all the road infrastructure. Think of the roads that have to be wide. Tennessee law says when you have a development over a certain size, you have to have a minimum width on your streets that are the primary avenues of ingress to the area. What's supposed to happen is the developer is supposed to pay for that widening and donate any real property he has. But what the trick is you get the local governance to exercise eminent domain, pay the developer instead of the developer paying it, pay him to build it instead of him building it out of his own pocket. And then some small percentage is supposed to go back to the municipality that sounds good, 4-6%, but the accountants zero out the net, so there's nothing. So you get them coming in, and then watch when some clown comes up saying they're paying for this. They're getting $1 up front for the franchise to operate it for the township.
All right.
See, and they want that sewage input there in Mason, and they want that water outlet, because they'd have to do some expensive groundwork to install that, so they already have it. They want to divest you guys of control of that resource. So it's nothing but a ripoff.
But Judge, it's like
our
using
black
the law.
elected officials need to do something about that.
They not doing
And
it.
see,
Miss Virginia Rivers is a profiles in courage. I'm gonna tell you something. Let me tell you this. Like, I talked to Mayor Gooden, Emmett Gooden, and he was saying this could be a good deal for everybody, but these folks are so damn greedy that the kids, like, they get trained in STEM, right? He said coming out of high school, they could be making as much as 70 to 80,000 a year. But it's not gonna benefit our kids.
They can make more than that.
Kids behind. But I want to
make more than that.
Yeah, but I'm talking like it's gonna benefit the black kids though, because there's nobody that advocates for our children. We leave them behind, and that's a problem. But I want to get Miss Rivers' take on stuff. I mean, she's on the ground, and I'm saying Ford are a bunch of. Ford came up dirty. You know, they had to play dirty up in Detroit. They don't play nice. So we got people like Miss Virginia Rivers. She's a beautiful spirit. She's a minister. She's a public servant. You're going against a Goliath. These folks don't play fair. These folks are dirty. You know this, Judge. I mean, they're gangsters.
They don't.
Go ahead.
They don't. But I don't even think Ford was too much aware of what's going on the local politics. See, you remember that movie, Walking Tall? Not the one with The Rock.
Yeah,
it was a comedy, but
one,
the one about Buford Pusser. You know who the villain was?
Who?
Governor Ray Blanton. He was the one that was behind the bootleg racket, the gambling racket, the drug rackets, and the prostitution rackets. He was part of the bunch that was screwing with banking, which is why he got the predecessor to Regions Bank. He was the one that was part of the highway rackets, where they bid on the highways so much per mile of highway using the federal standard. They underbid everybody, but they don't lose money because they don't put down the proper foundation. So our Tennessee highways, I-40, boom, the boom, the boom, the boom.
Winchester, Lamar.
You go down. Well, yeah, but you go down I-55, boom, the boom, until you get the Mississippi border, and then it goes. Somebody needs to sink some boreholes and see if these characters put down the proper foundation or whether they have been engaged in a concealed fraud.
Right.
I mean, but see, that's where the crookedness comes in. Look at your governor, lieutenant governor for years, Wilder.
Right.
Wilder, see, back in the early 80s, 81, 82, the law office I was in had a contract with a congressional committee to study the issue of air property loss. Wilder, the lieutenant governor of the state, was one of the main people who was engaging in this fraud. They would look up black folk in Detroit, Pennsylvania, Chicago, and say, look, your grandfather left this to the whole family. Would you be willing to sell your interest as a tenant in common? Sure. How much? We'll give you 10,000. Yeah, man, hell. And they get $10,000, and then that gives the new tenant in common, this corporate entity, the standing to go into court and divest the whole damn family of the interest. See? Now, I mean, so you can't trust any of these people. And when they had that sting operation, remember Tennessee Waltz?
Right.
It wasn't just black folk that got caught up in that. So it's crooked. And see, people are moving to Tennessee because actually Tennessee has no individual income tax. And I'll tell you something else you need to understand to get the big picture. What state of the union is number 4 in per capita millionaires? It goes New York, California, Florida, and what's the 4th state?
Texas.
Tennessee.
Okay. That's interesting. Wow. Okay.
So you've got number 4 in the nation out of 50 states in per capita millionaires located right here. You know what it looks like when you drive in East Memphis or Germantown.
But Memphis
or
so poor though. It's
Colleyville.
one of the poorest cities in the country. But Fred Smith, the billionaire,
No,
lives
it's
in Memphis.
not. No,
Right,
it's
right,
not.
right.
No, it's not. One half of Memphis is one of the brokest in the United States, and the other half has one of the highest per capita incomes in the United States of America.
Exactly.
See, look at what's happening with FedEx. The ordinary managers and employees out at FedEx had to give up their bonuses 4 years ago. They haven't gotten a raise. They've been working extra hours to help out the company, and the company is reporting its largest profits in its entire history. See, that's why they call it. That's why they call it the plantation.
Right.
So you've got this, and Memphis International Airport seesaws with Hong Kong International Airport is having the largest commercial tonnage export in the world.
Right.
Most people don't get it. More commercial tonnage is flown out of Memphis than any other airport in the whole world except sometimes Hong Kong.
So I'll get back to, I know Miss Rivers is on limited time. I don't want to keep her too long, but I want to get your input, Miss Rivers, like your take or what. Now, what can we do or what's the next move or whatever you want to talk about?
Tell us.
At this point. Yeah.
What can we do to help?
Well, you can, like Mr. Hurd said, Judge, you can advocate for Mason or, get the word out to help us to be able to do the things we need to do. As far as Ford is concerned, I've always, you made the statement that Ford may not have known what was going on in Mason. And that could be a possibility, but with the county mayor sitting on the board as chairman,
he's not going to tell. He has a fiduciary duty to tell, but he's not.
Yeah, and then Ford didn't, when they came and went to the table with their decisions or whatever they were doing at the table, nobody in Mason was ever invited. Nobody.
That's right. Mason. But see, the factory is not technically located in Mason.
Right.
See, that's where it comes in. It's 12 miles away. Now, here's something that might help you out. Contact the board of directors for Ford Motor Company and detail them on what's actually going on. See, a lot of few black folk buy Ford products except maybe Mustangs. Ford, F-O-R-D, found on roadside, dead or disabled. I hate Ford products. Every one I've had in my years has been a piece of junk. That's Thunderbird, Fords, SUVs, you name it, it's been junk. You couldn't give me one now. But they're trying to get into the black market, so maybe black folk need to say, if you don't do something about this, we will boycott your behind.
Well, like I said, we have things in place. Our attorneys are working on everything, and we are just gonna wait. The NAACP, they are bagging us, So
Do not trust the NAACP.
wow.
I'm a life member. Don't trust them.
Why, Judge?
Okay.
Find the fattest person that you associate with the NAACP and figure out how far you can throw him or her. That's how far you can trust them.
Okay.
You can't. Now, that said, you right now are a sovereign entity, and they want to coerce you guys into surrendering your charter because they'd have to go through all sorts of changes to take it. And under the guise of, see, your situation is your township is your township is a victim of criminal activity, misappropriation, embezzlement, fraud, theft. And it's like saying in criminal law, let's make the victim pay for the damages that the felon caused. You shouldn't have to pay the cost because you didn't do it. Some criminals stole it and they should have been prosecuted. Why hasn't the local district attorney brought charges against them over the years for this obvious fraud? What does the local district attorney have in terms of an investment interest? We know the governor of this state and the governor of Kentucky have financial interest in the battery manufacturer, or one of them anyway, at least in terms of the components. We know that the mayor of the nearby county seat has bought 300 to 550 acres, which he's trying to turn into a gold mine, because guess what? This isn't going to be farmland. Again, this is going to be urban development. You see street lights, gas, cable, parking lots, restaurants, grocery stores, department stores, convenience stores, hardware stores, hospitals, pet hospitals, daycares, schools. 27,500 employees dictates a town of at least 100,000 people. Not over 10 years, not over 20, not over 50 or 100, but in 5 years. This is the kind of thing that happened when they set these communities up in World War II, when there were fewer expectations of benefits, they had these huge municipalities grow up. And remember, these people are trying to get into a worldwide market. And their chief competitor in the electric car market right now is Cadillac. But you see, Cadillac doesn't have this stench you have to hold your nose about that attaches. Now, when I said maybe Ford did not know. Now, I'm not saying that they did not. I'm just saying that when you contact the Ford board of directors, we are assuming that perhaps you did not know about this because it's not actually located in Mason. It's going to be 12 miles outside of Mason. But in terms of the developmental opportunity, certainly Ford Motor Company trying to expand its markets, not just into the black community in the United States, but trying to expand into Africa, the Middle East, Asia, South America. Surely where all of these people of color live it would not want the onus of trying to wreck a black township from getting a piece of the action. Surely you guys are not doing that. And you see, that means Ford leans on all of the rest of these people, and they sure as hell have some deep pockets. See how that goes?
Well, Joe, let me ask you this, and Miss Rivers as well. The mayor of Tipton County's name was Jim Huffman or John Huffman?
Jeff Huffman.
Jeff Huffman. Is it possible? He's been in power for about 20 plus years. Is it possible to do some type of recall movement on him?
Yeah, we have one, but there's never been a recall. We have a law on the books, but we've never had a recall in the history of the state of Tennessee. That's California action. I'm not saying you couldn't do it,
but based on his conflict of interest,
but it
though,
might be embarrassing.
It looks
no. Look. Here's how you get it. Just go look up. Tennessee campaign finance disclosure laws are what they are. Find out who's been donating to who. Go look at it. You can find it. The net is a good thing for research, aside from gossip matters. What celebrity is doing what celebrity. Look it up, and the simple act of publishing the connections could be sufficient embarrassment. What you can do is, mayor, under Tennessee law, the township of Mason is entitled to make a complaint to TBI requesting an investigation of criminal wrongdoing. Do so. And you can provide them with leads. Mayor, you are a sovereign entity. You have a direct end to being able to sue the state government without their permission. It's built into Tennessee law. Mayor, you have a right to sit in as a municipality and bring action through what ought to be a city attorney's office, but you don't have one, it seems, but you do have legal counsel. The city is entitled to bring in special counsel, special prosecutors to protect its interest. So you've got a whole panoply of things. You're small, you don't have a big budget, but you have the legal right to do these things. So you can raise hell with some people.
I mean, this little light of mine, you gotta let it shine. But also you said about the NACP, I think about Tipton County, I'm thinking about Brownsville. Brownsville is in Tipton County, correct?
No.
It's not. It's in Haywood County.
Yes. No, Brownsville's not.
In Haywood County, right? Haywood. But I was thinking when I was down there on Saturday, I was thinking about Albert Williams, the first NACP officer to be killed. And it was happening in Brownsville. And they ran the family out of town. They had land, ran the family out of town. Wouldn't even let his wife bury him properly. And to this day, they don't know where he's buried at. But I'm saying he was this is the
Tennessee. Fine. 1962.
Yeah.
1962, original Fayette County Welfare League.
Okay.
Memphis and Shelby County, Judge Joe McCarty, Division 8, now occupied by an idiot known as Chris Kraft. Joe McCarty got the black bloc vote every time he ran. The Ford family always had him on their ballots. Joe McCarty was Grand Dragon of the KKK and chairman of the White Citizens Council.
Well, they were saying Ford, one of the Ford matriarchs was a bastard child of Mayor Crump, Boss Crump.
Yeah, no doubt. And Boss Crump got brought to Memphis to protect the part black son, a.k.a. Robert Church, of the richest plantation owner in Mississippi. And he figured out that the best way to do it is control politics. He couldn't control the white folks, so he controlled the Lincoln Republicans. Lincoln Republicans, if you go to one of their meetings, it's lily white now, but they were founded by black folk. Every black in Shelby County used to be a Republican.
Yeah, Robert Church Jr. was a very powerful national Republican too. He was recognized as national. Yes. I don't know about the Boss Crump. I don't know if the Ford family.
No, not the Ford family.
Okay.
Robert Church's rich white plantation owning daddy did. See, Robert Church's daddy lost all his legitimate sons in the Civil War. So at that point, all of his extensive properties and holdings would be with his cheat to the state of Mississippi on his death. So he was trying to give it to his son. And he even got an act passed in Tennessee, which up until the late 1920s said any person in this state with no more than 1/8 known colored ancestry may apply to a chancellor in this state for an official decree of Caucasian status. But Robert Church would not avail himself of that.
You talking about this Robert Church Sr.?
No, the one that they named the park at. I'm talking
Yeah, Robert
about
Church
his.
Sr. You talking about Robert Church Sr., the one.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't
Back
know
in the
about the
late
Crump thing.
19th
I
century.
heard it was an urban legend, but that's another story. But they did run
No,
the
but
Church family out of
he
Memphis.
did. He yeah, but I'm just saying.
They ran them out of Memphis, the
Crump
machine.
Yeah, the Crump machine. It got started because Robert Church Sr.'s daddy sent this young white lawyer into Memphis in 1906 to save his son's property. That's how it all got started. So Tennessee is exempt from the enforcement provisions of the Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, because it never deprived black folk of the right to vote. Now, maybe that's what's wrong with Tennessee politics when it comes to black folk. You don't rinse your water till your well runs dry. Ours never ran dry because Boss Crump made sure black folk could vote. That's how he controlled Tennessee, through the black bloc vote. This whole thing about these crooks we have is because he set up black vote brokers to deliver the black vote. And that's been going on for 80, 90 years. Well, more than 100. But you see, that's one of the problems with Tennessee. Typically, when black folk get the opportunity to get control of an area that is critical to future development, like Mason, Tennessee, you don't have this savvy black political structure, which is a good thing because you can set one up free from the corruption. Brownsville, I told you about a situation I had. Well, I didn't. It's an interesting thing. Got hired by this family to represent this beautiful 16-year-old girl, now well grown. Her grandfather left her 80,000 acres of agricultural land. This group of people had their lease expire almost 30 some years before, and they were leasing 80,000 acres of land for $200.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we opposed that. We had Tom Burrell, who was a black corporate farmer. This is way back in the early 80s. And these characters went into Chancery Court in Brownsville and got an ex parte permanent injunction. So I went there with what was necessary, got the injunction dissolved, had an order signed, and when we went to 5,000 or 6,000 acre parcel of this girl's land, we found that the people who were trying to use it had pushed boulders over on the road, cut down trees. So Tom Burrell got his equipment in there, and we had bulldozers and tractors moving the stuff off. We went there, and when the sheriff got there after he got a call, I had a 45 in one hand and the 357 in the other. And when he got there, he said, "Lord have mercy, everybody put your muzzles down. Lower them guns. Jesus Christ, what's going on?" Sheriff so-and-so, you will see on the hood of that pickup, there's a briefcase. It's open. If you open it, sir, you will find a signed order by Chancellor so-and-so. These people are trespassing. Ready? Jesus Christ, Tommy, y'all trespassing on these folk land. You better get off before I got to run you in, put them muzzles down. It used to be like that. And matter of fact, I got an apology from the chancellor because he used to be the Brownsville mayor at one time. And my mother had been the first executive employee hired under Works Progress administration before World War II. And she was supposed to be working in an office out of the city hall. He refused to allow it back then and ordered that they fix up a corner of a barn nearby. So when I told him about it, he remembered it. He wrote a handwritten letter of apology, which my mother appreciated, all these years after. But I mean, that's the reality.
Oh,
Excuse me.
Judge,
So
no problem.
you have to deal with the politics. Information is the key. A lot of stuff that these people are doing cannot be brought to the light of day. So please, Madam Deputy Mayor, Ms. Rivers, get your people to go research through the election commission who's been getting contributions. Go find out, which should be published with various state agencies, who's got a financial interest, who has applied for zoning variances. See, you've got agricultural land, and Mason is going to be the governmental entity, the sovereign entity that will determine whether or not there's zoning variances to switch something over into industrial, residential, etc., from agricultural.
Miss Rivers, I was also that I know I won't keep you long because the weather and all that. I know you gotta get out of here, but you have any closing thoughts and words, and also I'm gonna share the GoFundMe fundraiser site where people could give directly to you all to help pay off some of the costs that y'all have accrued according to y'all debt. So go ahead, Miss Rivers.
Well, we appreciate it if anybody do donate toward the town. But I do want to say this is that we're going to stand, we're going to fight until the end. And I just believe we're going to come out victoriously. I thank Judge Brown for the information that he shared today, some well-known information that he had to share. Also, and for his insight on different things. And I also want to say that I know he said don't trust the NAACP, but so far they have been proving, the one that we've been dealing with has been proving to try to help us, because she was the main one, Miss Gloria Sweetlove, that stood up when we had the meeting and tell us, don't give up your charter. Don't give up your charter, because if you give up your charter, you give up everything. She said that in our meeting on March the 10th. When she came down to the meeting and told the whole town, to everybody that was there, don't give it up. Stand on keep your charter and stand up for what you know is right in your town. And so far, she's been really doing helping us along the way.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Individual members of the NAACP may be on your side. Working with someone is not the same as trusting someone.
Well, yes, sir.
See, you see pictures of FDR, Churchill, and Joe Stalin sitting against each other, smiling in each other's faces. But I assure you, Great Britain didn't trust the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union didn't trust the United States, and the USA didn't trust the USSR. So you can have alliances. We don't trust anybody, because I tell you one thing you're going to find out. Somebody's going to come at you from the NAACP or elsewhere, not necessarily the woman that's working with you now, and they're going to want to know, are you going to put up some rainbow flags? Like, what the hell does that have to do with the situation? You know what I'm talking about, Brother Ron.
Oh, yeah. The alphabet mafia is real.
Yeah, you're going to wind up, what is the town going to do if we back you about promoting the rainbow situation? Forget the black thing. We've got Democrats on the Central Committee here in Shelby County talking about the number one problem, not black and white. It's not black education, not black economics, not black employment, not black relations with the police department. It is the alphabet problem. So just be careful.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Keep
Vice
eyes
Mayor.
open.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Mayor Rivers. I want to connect you all offline as well. It's okay to exchange contact.
Yeah, give them my number. Just send me something, Ms. Rivers. Text who you are so I can put it in my contacts so my phone won't block you, which it tends to do when it doesn't know you. We can talk offline, and I'll tell you some more stuff that, I don't want to get Brother Ron Hurd in trouble here because
I'm
they
already
are
in trouble,
very,
man.
they are very repressive and Nazi-like when it comes to YouTube,
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I have
Yeah.
never seen anything like it in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
This is just absolute repression. And by the way, don't get too happy when the NAACP comes to you for support for the so-called Emmett Till anti-lynch bill. I've analyzed the whole thing, and the whole fuss is about two words: sexual orientation. For the first time in American law, they made discrimination based on sexual orientation against the law. It's sex, race, color, national origin, religion, age, and medical condition. So they changed it to race, national origin, religion, and sexual orientation. Now, where that comes into play is this: the NAACP is pushing that poisonous act. They're going to want you to do it too. But women have fought long and hard because, it's unfair for the majority of the people that hold certain high-paying jobs to be male. It should be 50-50, men and women, right? Sounds fair. Okay, so you have 50% of the holders of this job being men, and then 50% holding women, but 25%, 30% are actually males that just claim to be women. So you see, when you have that language put in, you can get women right back behind the 8 ball, where males hold the overwhelming majority of certain categories of jobs because some of them claim to be women. You see how that goes?
Yeah, Joe, I want to get it out of here, though, man. I know it's the weather.
I know, but I'm just saying, I want you to think about these things because they are part of today's landscape when we're dealing with politics. So I've already heard from some of my sources that the alphabet bunch is coming after Mason to see if, in return for their support, they can make this their Mecca, not Mecca for black folk.
Well, that's breaking news, I guess. But
now, just be ready for that. I mean, it's kind of like, what? What in the hell are you talking about? But I know you have to go. It's raining out there, and it's really weird.
Yeah, it's really weird.
You're probably going to have a tornado watch going on for West Tennessee and another few I expected.
Well, they said the wind's supposed to get up to 60 miles per hour, Judge. Is that a tornado or a windstorm? What is that? Is that strange? I think they're manipulating the weather, but that's another topic.
No, I don't think they know how to manipulate weather. I think what it is this 15 years ago, they were predicting this as a consequence of global warming, but that's supposed to not be happening. But it is what it is. Also, there's another thing, too. They want to run a pipeline through where Mason is. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I heard
they want y'all water and land. So
they want it all.
They want it all. They greedy. Yeah, they don't want to share either.
Jesus Christ,
they just don't want any black people in leadership to be able to enjoy the benefits of the money that's coming through.
Yeah. And Jason
Jesus Christ, Thomas, them niggers don't know what to do with what they sitting on. We need to take that so we can do something with it there.
You know what?
We got us a parcel of color that'll be glad to hump for some treats. All we got to do is give them some bacon bits and they do whatever we want.
I saw read Jason Mumpower. He reminded me of a supervillain like Lex Luthor or something like that from Superman, the Lex guy. But he said he's a comic book fan. He got like over 36,000 comic books in his private collection, and his favorite superhero is Spider-Man, allegedly. But he's a supervillain in this story. I don't know. But anyway, I ain't gonna hold you, Vice Mayor Virginia Rivers. Thank you so much. We love you madly. In the words of the great Duke Ellington, you keep on producing and pushing. I'm definitely gonna get you in touch with the judge again, so y'all can talk
All right.
offline.
I'm gonna do what I can to help you out. I don't practice law anymore, otherwise I jump in there. My law license is in a medical disability status. I'm getting old, and that protects me from all of these jealous clowns that want to complain, which they do 4 or 5 times a month, about I did something that I'm not supposed to do, but as a private citizen not practicing, to hell with them, I can do it. And I don't fear anybody, so I will talk for you. I'll badmouth the individuals.
There you
I
go. You got
like
an
that.
ally. Thank you so much, Virginia Miss Rivers. We love
Thank
you
you.
madly.
Thank you for having me.
It's an
Thank you,
honor.
Judge.
You be
All
safe out
right.
there.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Yeah, where I think you are on the screen is not where you are. Okay. All right. I'm out of
All right.
here.
Now,
Have fun. Got to go. This has been. Oh, you want me to stay on?
I want you to stay. Yeah. Oh, I
Oh,
gotta talk
I'll
about. I gotta talk
stay.
about some juicy stuff, right? You
Okay.
talked about you promote manhood and protect womanhood. I gotta ask you about the Chris
By
Rock and
Will
Will Smith.
Smith and his
Yeah, I
punk
had to
ass.
try something
That
serious. I would get silly.
was the biggest punk ass crap I've seen. You know what? He was displacing.
Uh-huh.
His wife has been all over social media, walked down the red carpet at the BET function with this boy who is a friend of one of their children.
Mm-hmm.
And that boy was staying in the Smith family house and she was screwing him.
Right.
And she bragged about it. And he put it in one of his CDs about how good the nookie was.
Entanglements, right?
Now,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of honor do you have to defend when your wife rolls her eyes at you after she's been doing that to you in public? That is ridiculous. Then the other thing is, see, from being in Hollywood, they prank people. You know, this stuff
Mm-hmm.
like smile, you're on candid camera after they have pranked you and you didn't know it. Well, a lot of times Hollywood would have you be the MC at some kind of function and they'd pull off a prank that they didn't tell you about. You saw uh, Mr. Rock when he looked at him like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Come on up here. See, somebody I know says they overheard Rock down in the green room later saying, man, I thought he was giving me a high five. You know, and he
To the face.
probably said, this dude's pranking me.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what was so embarrassing?
What's that?
Mr. Action Hero, Mr. Men in Black, Mr. Spy, Mr. Bad Boys, you know, bad boys, what you gonna do? He hauls off and bitch slaps somebody with open fingered hand, and he doesn't even cause Chris Rock to wipe the grin off his face, and Chris Rock doesn't even miss a stroke in his dialogue, and say, yeah, okay, wow. And then when he starts cussing, he says, what? And like, dude, man. And then you saw that sister sitting next to him, looks at him like, man, what the hell's wrong with you?
Right.
And now LAPD already came to Chris Rock. Do you want to prosecute? And he manned up and said, nah, I'm not going to prosecute. But you see, Will Smith just abdicated all that macho superhero bullshit when he came up with that bitch slap that didn't even cause the man to miss a word in his dialogue.
I was impressed by that. He got a strong chin. He should have been a boxer or something.
No, he didn't get a strong chin. It was a weak ass blow. I've been taking martial arts for 55 years. You can't deliver a damn blow with your fingers. You're going to do that. And he even did it effeminate. Oh, slap.
But he played
Oh,
Ali, right? It
man,
was like Ali
just
versus Pookie.
I
Ali
know,
versus
and it
Pookie.
makes you wonder. I know how good Hollywood can get with special effects, and I'm thinking all of that was special effects on buffing him out, making him look like Ali. I've seen him do that in the movies. Now, Wesley Snipes, you know, one of my homeboys, now dead, Grandmaster Clifford Stewart of Los Angeles, late of L.A., now deceased last year.
Mm-hmm.
Black Belt Magazine said he was one of the probably the most dangerous human alive in North America for 15 years.
Wow.
I taught him to shoot 55 years ago. He taught me martial arts 55 years ago, 56, 7 years ago, and vice versa. And he said Wesley knows his stuff. They don't have anybody doing special effects for him. He can do it. Now, but Will Smith, I seriously doubt after that little pussy ass bitch slap he gave Chris Rock, I'm going, man, we know who the man is now. Somebody just been acting, remember? And then the other thing, you mean to tell me you try to act like you playing streetwise stuff and you've never been into one of the many comedy clubs in Los Angeles, all up and down Sunset Boulevard, where that is the standard fare? You walk off in there and they're going to talk about you.
Well, Judge,
that's
like,
part of the game.
You remember when Mike Epps made fun of you from the incident, turn up. Like you didn't slap him or shoot at him.
I do that. I'm a celebrity and I'm open to it. And plus,
turn up.
Did Chris Rock know that Jada had some medical condition? Plus, it just looked like she'd gotten a quo vadis. Looked like she's trying to play Grace Jones.
Yeah, but my thing is this though. He said G.I. Jane,
the white girl,
Demi Moore.
So,
and she's a sex symbol, right? She was a sex symbol back in the day. So how is that an insult?
She's been all in the public with that shaved head. So right. I mean, is he supposed to know that much about the family? Hey, Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane Part 2. I'm with you.
Now,
how was that an insult?
Now, Judge, if he had said, you gonna play the next Lord of the Rings as one of them Hobbit goblin looking things, that's the insult. He didn't call her gremlin or a Hobbit or anything like that. He said G.I. Jane, which is
no,
but the media says alopecia.
Nobody, but nobody got the insult.
Right.
But then you turn around, you insulted because somebody said, because you're white, and see, she's got stubble. Looks like she cut it close. Doesn't look like she's got a problem with her hair. Right. It doesn't fall out. It's just poor structure, so it breaks off close to the scalp. It looks like a quo vadis. It looks like Grace Jones. It looks like Demi Moore shaved it for the part. So she's been showing up. She hasn't put on a wig or anything like that. She hasn't done what Michelle Jackson, a.k.a. Michael Jackson, used to do, have his scalp peeled back and Polynesian hair threaded individual strand through his scalp like the pervert he was. And by the way, that's what they were doing with that. They were advertising androgyny through Michael Jackson to acclimate the public to fluid gender. See, that was the poison of it. And what in the hell did Chris Rock do to insult Jada Pinkett? You just mentioned her. Like he mentioned the other
said it was
man.
A G.I. Jane joke. You know how he said it was a G.I. Jane joke. Like I don't understand why you got that upset about. You was laughing at first, and you saw Jada how she was looking. He said, "I don't want to deal with that at home."
Will Smith, grinning, and I guess to his wife rolled eyes like, motherfucker, this is why I'm fucking around on you and sleeping with our son's homeboy, who's probably also sticking our son, considering what he's about. But that's a hell of a combination.
You don't think Will Smith, they got an open relationship? He knew about that.
Yeah, I know. But just think about it. This dude is fucking your son and fucking your wife. And you're supposed to get mad because somebody said, hey, we got G.I. Jane going. And see, the press in Hollywood would have said, Chris Rock dropped the bombshell. Is Jada gonna get to play G.I. Jane? Is she gonna be a colonel? You know, wow. I mean, Matrix. She's played all of these badasses, you know, action hero and all this other stuff. Somebody had to explain what the inside joke was. Well, the inside grievance was, because I didn't get it. What the hell did he slap her for? Slap him for?
We didn't know what's interesting that Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena, he said he don't condone. I mean, he don't agree with how Will handled it.
Oh no, it was insulting to the family.
King Richard. Yeah, it was insulting.
Yeah, like what the hell was that all about? What kind of punk move was that?
And also, it's Chris Rock.
And then look. Also, look at this. I don't think anybody would suffer one thing, one way or the other, if they never had another Oscars event or an Emmy event. It's just entertainment bullshit to distract you. So anyway, just so happens, since you want to talk about it, this is the first one with a black producer and director, where most of the cast and crew was black. It is the first time anybody in the history of the Oscars has been slapped seriously on stage, or at least with serious intent. It was ridiculous. And he pranced his little bitch acting self up there and switched away, and he had a grin on his face. Oh, I slapped him. You know where I thought, I said, that is a takeoff on some South Park cartoon shit. Have you ever watched South Park?
Yeah, I watched
slapped him. Slapped him. I said, oh man, damn. That is some real bitch shit.
It's like I don't know. Will's a great.
Look at him. You and your wife have been having all of these freak parties where your children have been sneaking down from the second floor and at the top of the stairs watching mom and dad get their freak on. That's why all of your kids turned out sissified. Think about it.
I'm thinking about it. Like the only one that seems like it's normal is the oldest one by another woman. I think Will like those type of certain women, because I think Pepper, he was into Pepper from Salt and Pepper, but she turned him down for a Tretch from Naughty by Nature, Tupac's good friend. Who like
now the question still is the guy that's screwing your wife half your age is living up in your house, the guest of one of your children.
Right.
I mean, you need to have, what in the hell are you even out there with this woman for? Don't you have any shame?
Judge, you know how it is. It's cheaper to keep her.
I went through a 4.5 years of, I know that. My ex got $52 million from my
there you go.
Liquidity. But look, think about it. You're going to get mad at this, and the couple before you, what is it? Yeah, so-and-so and so-and-so. They're both nominated for Best Actor. If he wins, he can't win. He got to lose. He probably said, oh, please, Will Smith, get Best Actor. And then he says, Jada, I love you. He said, what do we got here? G.I. Jane 2? Said, I'm with you. Now, who took that as an insult?
Even he said that was mild. He said himself was kind of like, that was a mild one. You know, he could go hard on you. Chris Rock roast some people. He didn't.
Most comedians at a comedy zone type set will go hard on you. You go to the one here in Memphis and they go hard on you.
Especially you sit in the front row. I mean, you asking for it. But to me, it'll be an honor to be roasted by Chris Rock. I ain't gonna lie to you. Or Dave Chappelle and them guys. You know.
Yeah, and by the way, I think Dave Chappelle would have knocked Will Smith's ass all the way out.
Yeah, because Dave, like, he from DC too. He got the muscles. He kind of built up. Yeah. Chris Rock is
but I don't think
though. He's a run.
Yeah, but I don't think but he ain't that small. But and then. Speaking of Chappelle, Dr. Ron Chappelle, Dr. Clifford Stewart, some of the baddest ass martial artists you ever want to run into. And the two of them and I ran a playground at Trinity Avenue Elementary School in LA back in the 60s. Ron Chappelle ain't but 5'6". He sure would have put Will Smith on his ass with what he knows. So we don't know whether Chris Rock has been a dedicated martial artist. On my show, every one of the cameramen on my show was a cage fighter.
Oh, wow.
We sit there for lunch and discuss them cage fighting. You know, this full contact karate, martial arts shit. So
yeah, I don't think he did it to Joe Rogan.
One of those.
Yeah, Joe, when you say that, I'm thinking about Joe Rogan, the comedian who's also MMA Kappa background. He wouldn't have took that. He would have strung Will Smith back. He knew who to do it to.
Yeah, but I think what really happened is the way I've had it done to me, not like that. I would have blocked it. Right here in Memphis, you know, they've got professional wrestling here.
Yes,
some years ago, somebody asked me to go to a thing there, and one of these wrestlers tried to put a move on me, and I just blocked, blam, blam, put him on the ground. You know, like, Judge, damn. I just said, yeah, man, well, you know, I'm the real deal. I don't play this shit. I didn't know where you were coming from.
Judge.
Yeah, you know, you're lucky I didn't fuck your knee up, you know. Do that little side action after you remember when it's straightened out, it's a little sore now, isn't it? I said, what if I had stomped on it?
Oh,
you know, see, so what happens is they prank you, and they'll have it happened to me several times in Hollywood. They'd have you emceeing something or doing something like that, and somebody would pull off a prank on you.
Right.
And like, is this part of the script or is this shit real? Well, before I have killed this son of a bitch, let me take it like it's play. And, you know, if you want to strike a blow, I'm blam on.
Right.
You know, and all of this on somebody. You know, like, let's see what happens after that. But I think, with due respect, I think Chris Rock thought he was being pranked.
Yeah, I think so.
Particularly his reaction. He didn't even try to bring a hand up. He still had his hand behind his back when the guy walked up on him.
Because you know how Will was, he might have been smiling. He sucker punched or sucker slapped him. Because he could have been smiling all the way up there.
Yeah, and see, that's the other thing too.
And it's Will Smith.
I heard from one of my sources. I don't know how true it is, and I got to go back and get the story straight. Chris Rock was complaining he thought Smith was coming up to give him a high five.
Yeah, man, he gave him a high five, all right.
No, I mean, you know, like high five.
Yeah, I know you're talking
about
this
shit. So that bitch shit.
Well,
what was it in South Park? I'm gonna slap you, slap you, slap you, where they had some little gay boy shit in South Park. That's what it looked like. It was embarrassing. Man, you action hero, you can't.
But what do you think about? I gotta ask you, Judge. What do you think about Denzel and Tyler Perry and Bradley Cooper and them cuddling him? He should have been escorted out of the premises. He should have been kicked out the show. There's no excuse for that.
Well, Tyler Perry, you know, he kind of impressed me as somebody wanting to do that. He might like the rough trade. He don't like men too well, you know. Well, he doesn't like straight guys too much, you know.
Okay,
but
what about Denzel? What do you think about his response? Like he said,
well,
when you hide, the devil will come at you.
From
or
what
something.
I understand, yeah. See, but I think he was talking about, man, you got to control yourself. The devil will come at you, but the devil was his wife, not Chris Rock. Chris Rock didn't live in his house.
You know, Judge.
Chris Rock didn't hang out with his son. Chris Rock wasn't screwing his wife.
You know what, Judge? I was friends with Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory will go out for you at a moment's notice, and then he'll ask you the next moment, how's the family? The last time I saw Dick Gregory in St. Louis, I had to stop like a 6'5" plus 300-pound man from trying to beat him up. And Dick had no idea because first they were laughing in the kitchen. The guy worked in the kitchen at the comedy club. Then when Dick and them left on the elevator, this big mountain of a man started trying to rush up the stairs, and his co-workers had to hold him back. I had to talk some sense to him. I said, man, what's wrong with you? I thought y'all were cool. He said, I'm ML for He said, look, man, you saw how he did me, right? In front of Maxine Waters. Yeah, man, why you ain't? I said, look, you could be the greatest man who ever lived. Dick don't know you. He's a comedian. He's an entertainer. He don't know nothing about you. You gonna let that man define you, a person who know nothing about you, define your whole reality and who you are? Because even if he could beat Dick Gregory up, there's an 80-something-year-old man. You look bad if Dick Gregory beat you up or you beat him up. You can't win. Cause man, calm down. You can't win.
Okay, look here. And what is one of the more popular special events in Hollywood? The celebrity roast.
That's right. You gotta be able to take a joke.
And if you want to see something, go back to when Ellen DeGeneres was emceeing the last Oscars. She talked about some folk like they were dogs.
Mm-hmm. You got to take it, man.
And she a sarcastic, evil heifer.
Yeah, I know you got some stories, Judge. You told us about those stories about you and Ellen. And now she's getting counseled, right? She counseled, right? Is she out there?
Yeah.
Now? Okay.
Yeah. Well, see, the truth of the matter is every single show she's been in was canceled in a few weeks. In some seasons, they gave her 2-3 shows a season because they were rewarding her for being the nookie nibbling nymphet of Hollywood to spread that rainbow cult thing. Now, don't get me wrong. If you gay, you got a right to get your freak on in your bedroom. But when you start behaving as a political party and you become the official non-secular religion of the country, you're open to pushback.
Right.
Because I don't like this thing they're doing with these boys and girls where they are trying to have these cross-dressing clowns talk to them 2 years old, 3, 4 years old in public libraries where they're distraught parents who don't have a clue as to what to do to raise them are taking them in there so they can listen to these freaks talk to them for 2 and 3 hours. I don't like it when kindergarten at 5 years old, 6, 7, and 8 years old, they're talking to them, cross-dressing and presenting to them like this is normal when they're in elementary school. See, you can't discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, age, medical condition. Now, all of them except religion or conditions that people can't do a damn thing about. Religion, there is a choice, but not really, because mama is taking her child in diapers to synagogue, church, mosque, temple, and by the time that kid gets 10 or 11, they are brainwashed into the religion. They have no choice. So that's once a week. Your Sabbath, your holy day, Sunday, whatever it may be. But these kids are getting taken 2 or 3 days a week by the parents to the school, to the library, and every day of the week to the school teachers that are secretly pushing this poison. And I'd like to see some surveys done as to how many of these folk gravitate to schools. Like, I'm looking at one, they got a male kindergarten teacher. No how, no way. You know what this creep is talking about? I think it's unfair that I can't talk about my sexual adventures and good times with my significant other. What in the hell is somebody doing talking about their sex life with 5-year-old kindergartners? See, this has gotten out of hand. And speaking of which, let's go to the so-called Emmett Till anti-lynch bill. Now, I'm going to read you some statistics. Hold on, let me get them.
Okay, yes, sir. This is Brother Ron.
Now, these statistics,
Judge O'Brien.
These statistics are not white folk. This is from Tuskegee Institute, where they had a foundation to deal with lynching.
Yes, sir.
This goes back into the 1880s. when they started keeping records. (1880s). The total number of people lynched during the history of the country, as lynching is defined, 4,742.
Okay.
The last lynching was in 1964. That's 58 years ago. There were 2 white men and 1 black man who were lynched for a total of 3 in 1964. A lynching has been defined as when a mob or an unruly, lawless crowd takes matters into its own hands and executes someone accused of what is perceived to be an offense, typically by hanging. Now, we think of it as always somebody black and the Klan's doing it, but don't forget all of the stories of Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, let's see, Wild Bill Hickok, rescuing one of the prisoners in their jail from getting lynched, a white man getting lynched by an irate crowd. Lynch law, mob justice, didn't just start with black folk. Now, some of these years, there were more white people lynched than there were black people. So the last lynching in the United States of America was in 1964 for a total of 3. Now, yeah, some people get hung from a tree, but is it a lynch mob? Or is it the mob executing somebody because they welched on the deal or they stole money from the mob, meaning organized crime? Now, what is a mob?
That's a good question. You asking me, Joe, or it's like you just?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
A mob in Black's Law Dictionary is defined as a large and disorderly crowd of people, especially one bent on riotous or destructive action. You want to know when the last time you actually saw a mob in action?
Bill Cosby trial.
No.
Okay, go ahead and tell me.
When that young kid Rittenhouse shot 3 of them down, that was a mob getting ready to go move on him. By the way, this lynch law does not require anybody to be killed. The thing of it is, they changed the definition of lynching to something else.
Of course.
And you know what the whole thing is about? 2 words. Sexual orientation. They added to American law for the first time. No, it doesn't say sex. It says race, national origin, religion, or sexual orientation. So it got first introduced, this bill, in 1997 by John Connors. John Lewis took up the mantle, and it had been getting tabled over and over and over. Juicy Jesse Smollett faked that mega lynching with that Halloween costume noose that Chicago police have him on tape on a security cam at a costume shop, buying with the 2 Nigerians right with him right before Halloween. Right after he did that, Kamala Harris Imhoff, and Cory Booker, who had met with him the day before this alleged little rope thing, which, by the way, Chicago police have security cam footage of this. The 2 Nigerians didn't put the rope around his neck because a car came along. They left as Jesse Smollett is walking back with his bag of sandwich and salad. You can see him put the noose around his neck, and he lets it hang loose. He puts it around his own neck, and what did they come up with? They took Conyers and Lewis's bill, and they changed the name to the Anti-Lynch bill. It didn't pass. Trump was still in office. So then they resurrected now as the Emmett Till anti-lynch bill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was in junior high school, I read the the Look magazine article. They paid these folk who had lynched Emmett Till to give their story.
Right.
Or maybe I was in high school. And they were saying, yeah, and the Negro, he was defiant to the end. He told us what we could do with ourselves right before we killed him. He wouldn't even show no fear. Or we had to kill him and prove a point. So this brave young 14-year-old, when nobody was watching him, manned up and went down defiant, told them to go fuck themselves, literally.
Right.
And you name this bill for the purposes you have. After this brave young man, you besmirch his integrity. I met Emmett Till's mother here in Memphis back in the 90s. Wow. Several times. We talked for several hours. And if she had read this bill associated with her son's name, she would be badly offended. Most of these people who are talking about it haven't read it. First time in the country's history, they've made lynching black folk illegal. There haven't been any black folk
and the fact
lynched
Judge,
in 58 years.
You know that's true because Taraji P. Henson compared what happened to Juicy or Jussie to Emmett Till. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
This punk ass faked it.
This punk coward faked it.
Right.
And how Chicago police got right on it. The sports club he and the two Nigerians are members of. Somebody that is instructed the trainers at that club called me up and said, this fool is in here bragging. This is before it happened.
Wow.
About they're going to pull this stunt off. So they'd been going around. It's a big, huge sports club. And they've been hanging up in the pubs in this club bragging about that we're going to do this. So people just said when it went down, wait a minute, no, they've been planning this. And then remember, his two Confederates tell on him, it's not a lie. Right. He needs psychiatric help, maybe, but they were planning it. The purpose was for him to be a LGBTQP hero. Now,
or the gay Tupac, according to him.
Yeah. And then that stuff about he's not killing himself, was that to say, don't Epstein me because I can pull the covers off of you, Kamala, Ms. Vice President, and you, Mr. Booker, who is trying to get out on his knees and pray for the popsicle to be put in his mouth. Okay. That's what he looks like. I mean, it's his business, but that's what he looks like. Hell, Will Smith switched off the stage after he did that to Chris Rock.
Yeah, the world
made that punk move.
I gotta ask you.
See, it is getting disgusting. And by the way, there is nothing said in there about lynching. One of the things that happens is this. Well, ladies, you ought to be getting real mad because here's where this is going. You have had a long struggle to get your rights. If you're doing the same job as a man, you're supposed to get paid the same as a man. If there are available jobs, it's presumed women are just as competent as men are about certain types of jobs, unless maybe it's putting hands on somebody's naked body or something for therapy. I mean, yeah. Okay, but 50% is supposed to be men, 50% is supposed to be women. But when they put that sexual orientation in there, half the jobs go to normal straight men or gay men who aren't talking about it. And guess what? You don't get 50% of the jobs because now female includes those sick boys with mental health problems who claim to be girls. So what happens? You just get shoved right back where you were now. So a whole bunch of males get the jobs that are high paying and you get a little few peanuts passed your way. Sports, women's sports. Now, if somebody starts booing somebody in a crowd, boo, you know, when you get that Bigfoot bozo who's 6'5", now #1 ranked female swimmer, and he was 264 ranked as a man, and they got all these little girls who have scholarships from college that they'll lose if they sit up there and make the team forfeit because they won't compete against somebody like that. You know, that is unfair. That is discriminatory. And we have to stop that. Okay? The way they characterize it, this is, you don't have to kill anybody. And they want to characterize what happened to
Jesse.
Oh, George Floyd is a lynching.
Okay.
That's not a lynching. Well, you know how? There's no mob. So, okay, it's a nightclub, big nightclub. And some guy's in there with his homeboys, and there's what to be a big-breasted, fine-looking woman that he's been slow dancing with and lip-locking with, kissing on the dance floor. And then he finds out he's got a dick. And then he and somebody else has been dancing with this fool that the fool's been trying to play him off against each other. They beat his ass. That's a lynching now. And he just got a bloody lip or a black eye. Or, oh my God, they scratched my face and I'm trying to be pretty.
So it's a lynching.
See, that's
even though that person
lynching now.
wasn't killed. It's got the
It's now lynching. You don't, yeah, you don't have to kill now. It's just,
okay.
yeah, that's a lynching. See,
what,
they
is
changed
Ahmaud
the
Arbery?
definition. See, it's sick.
Was Ahmaud
Oh,
Arbery?
Ahmaud Arbery is supposed to be a lynching, but that's not a lynching.
Okay.
That's just 3 white boys decided to get it. It was not a mob went off seeking somebody and grabbed somebody. They found him, and it was a murder kidnapping. They had another motive. It may have been a hate crime, but I suspect it had a whole lot to do with people are really sick and tired about their homes getting burglarized. You know, this black affluent suburb that's south of I-385 and a little east of Forest Irene.
Yeah, in Collierville, right?
And you know, yeah, but you know the one I'm talking about. It's a good black suburb, been there for 20-some years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've had pretty good times, but you've seen that housing unit they put in
Like you froze, Judge.
Yeah, well, they're trying to freeze me. I'm not freezing. I mean, can you still hear me?
Judge.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, it's some crazy stuff going on. But yeah, but you were talking about.
Yeah, I know because they're doing this. This is this censorship and interference with free speech now. But you know that apartment complex down there on Winchester and Forest Irene,
near the Veteran Cemetery.
Yeah, and then the one on the other side, well, that's because they violated city and urban planning by taking the people that they displaced and gentrification in downtown and midtown, putting them out there. And our information out here where I live is that $18,000 was put into the campaign account of each of the aldermen who voted for a zoning variance to build this school down here on Forest Irene, where they widen the road from 2 lanes to 4. They were supposed to make it a junior high, well, middle school, but they couldn't get but 60-some kids that were eligible to go there. So now they made it an elementary school as a draw. Same people that built that got paid for building it, built that complex. But let's go to what happened with that complex, those 2 complexes that they built. A friend of mine that's lived over in this upscale black community, suburban community, said, Joe, man, I've been over there 24 years, man, never had any problem. Last 2 years, they've hit me 4 times. And I'm down here at Olive Garden on Winchester. And I'm in there with my niece. She's a grown woman, she's grandmother, and we're talking about stuff. And we hear this conversation. Yay, man, mine done had me over there, man. I got to bring the posse, man. You see all this stuff we can come over here and snatch, man? Ooh, wee, man. Like we got to play some visits late one night or early in the day when ain't nobody home. And see, people around here didn't even lock their doors.
Wow.
And they have some black folk on this block too. And now, right down here, they've had a homicide within the month. Somebody on parole was over there with his girlfriend. See, so that kind of thing, you know, we need to adapt. But can you see what happens when black folk have a demonstration or a protest and somebody gets hit? Now it becomes a lynching and nobody got hung. What you saw in the film clips from 1992 when they had that riot in L.A. behind Rodney King getting jacked up. A whole bunch of people would have been charged with lynching. You know, nobody had to die. Now I don't even see myself. Did they cut us?
No, I'm just okay. Can you see yourself now?
Yeah, I can see myself now. Okay. I can't see you.
Yeah, I'm but you see, on my end, but go ahead.
You see, with making it a hate crime, it's like the law has long been clear. You say anything you want to say to somebody unless, A, they're fighting words that produce a breach of the public peace. You know, the case, by the way, comes from Fayette County, Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, opinion written in 1962 by Justice Bailey Brown from Memphis. And what that word was is they busted these folk up there at that tent city for use of language, and the judge wrote the opinion on the Sixth Circuit. He said, no, they have a right to free speech unless what they're uttering are fighting words that are designed to provoke an immediate physical combat. So now in America, you can say the N-word, the worst, most grievous insult you can give to a black man. Nothing will happen. You can say it all day long, all you want to. But say something that deals with somebody's sexual proclivity, something that deals with somebody's ethnicity, aside from being black and using the N-word. And what do? They permanently ban you. These folk that operate the modern soapboxes, social media. Twitter put it out a couple of years ago that if you did name somebody, in other words, you call Bruce, Caitlin, Bruce again, you did name them, they'll permanently ban you from Facebook. 3 weeks later, Brucey came out and said he wanted to be Bruce again. And even he said it's unfair for men to be allowed to compete against women in women's sports. I was down here at Lowe's, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Lowe's right here on Winchester. And somebody said, Uncle Joe. And I looked over, there was this beautiful young lady, but her arm was up with a strut down in a full arm and shoulder cast. I said, baby, what happened? Now, her story was that when she was 8 or 9 years old, she wanted to get into martial arts. So she got a scholarship to a major university doing women's wrestling. So she tells me, this a couple of years ago before COVID hit, she told me, she said, Uncle Joe, I had to compete in this tournament against this boy. And there was another boy in there wrestling his girls. So my teammate and I said, no how, no way. So they told us we'd lose our scholarships and the team would forfeit if we didn't wrestle them. So my homegirl got her jaw broken and put in a coma for 2 days. And I got a compound fracture on my arm, and I've had 3 operations. And she started crying. She said it hurt so bad, but when I take the medication, I can't focus to study. And if I don't take it, I can't stand the pain. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
And I'm thinking all kinds of man stuff like this punk ass coward sat there and did that. I wish I could find his ass. But they were just thoughts. because I'm a retired judge. We're not supposed to breach the public peace. But
That's
you
right.
see, that kind of garbage is going on. So what happens? And by the way, every law that you pass is a two-edged sword and can be swung back the other way.
Right.
So what happens when this backlash from straight people comes about and they start saying, okay, we feel it is harmful to somebody's physical or mental health when somebody pulls this tranny thing on him and puts him in, why did this punk pick me to try and do I look like what wow. Flip the script. And by the way, in the United States, every survey is consistent. Less than 1%, 0.7% maximum are trannies, transvestites. 1% are lesbians. 1.5% are male homosexuals. Between 1 and 4.5%, depending upon where you are bisexual. So that ranges from 2% to about 4.5% to 7% of the American population, depending upon the locale, are into the LGBTQP thing as practitioners. So that leaves between 95 and 93% of the rest of the public do not swing that way. Now, again, I don't care what you do to get your freak on in your bedroom. That's your right. But a lot of gay folk look at LGBTQP as a cult. And like one of them I know said, look, that's like all Christians aren't supporters or weren't supporters of Branch Davidian.
Right.
All Christians didn't support Jim Jones and drinking the Kool-Aid. All Christians don't support the Catholic Church with its priests molesting all these choir boys and altar boys. And a lot of them profess dislike for what LGBTQ is dealing with, because a lot of them say they wouldn't be in this predicament if they hadn't been molested by a pedophile, either a stranger or somebody who wasn't a stranger. A lot of them say they don't have any problem with the traditional nuclear family. They love the families and they don't like the fact that some people are trying to destroy it. And what with the demographic changes where in 20, 25 years, there'll no longer be an ethnic majority in America, we've got some problems. Because I can see this whole thing being used for the defense and advancement of certain others. There's another thing that is even scarier. The feds have a thing called being an accessory to or aiding and abetting a lynching. Can you, not a lynching specifically, but you can tack it on the front, aiding and abetting a lynching, which is, remember, it doesn't have to be a homicide anymore. So, yeah, man, kick his fucking ass, man. Yeah, man, he punks you out, man. Aiding and abetting a lynching.
So you mean to tell me they changed the word lynching like they did the word gay? Gay used to mean something else, and now lynching means something else.
Yeah, lynching no longer means a hanging. It no longer means a homicide.
Oh, no.
So you are supposed to be able to get 30 years for your typical lynching case that does not involve homicide. So aiding and abetting puts you into what, 10 years in a federal penitentiary for aiding and abetting a lynching that did not involve a homicide. It was just an ass whooping or a blow or a slap like Will Smith gave to Chris Rock.
You beat up on I guess a so-called gay or homosexual person, but it was not about their sexuality. It was about something else. Because if the person
It's
gay or whatever, they're gonna
firm.
say a hate
See,
crime.
that's the other thing. I think the whole act is unconstitutional because it's void for vagueness. In other words, there's no way for somebody to intelligently, rationally, and logically look at that new law and say, this is what I have to do and this is what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, effectively, what they've done is chilled somebody's First Amendment rights.
This is people talking about trusted science and
By the way,
uh-huh.
you know what the Russians are getting a lot of traction on around the world is they're trying to save the world from Nazification by the United States. And they cite this kind of stuff here. The crackdown that American social media has had, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and such like, on free speech, propaganda, which is rife. They're going to use this as an example of Nazification to control the American public. And if they do it to Americans, what would they do to you? Next thing is, just like the United States claimed to be protecting the rest of the world from communism, the Russians are protecting the world from the destruction of the nuclear family, which is the official policy of the United States of America, because LGBTQ has become the official non-secular philosophy. Like Zen isn't technically a religion. It's a philosophy, but it's respected as a religion. You see, Buddha was a real person. He's not a godhead. But there's Zen Buddhism treated as a religion. LGBTQ gets treated as a religion. And the rest of the world is saying, And see, when you look at a U.S. embassy or a U.S. consulate, now they have an American flag at the top of the flagpole and a rainbow flag that is likely to be bigger than the American flag flying under it. American law says you may fly a state flag under the American flag. You may fly the flag of a foreign nation under certain circumstances under an American flag, but you can't fly that kind of flag under an American flag on an American building, governmental building. And by the way, why the hell don't they fly red, black, and green, black nationalist flag? You see?
Why not? Yeah, I mean, just, I know. Have you heard about Trump? I read this headline. I don't know if it's true or not. That Trump was trying to encourage Putin to release information on Biden's family that they got him.
They know it. See, they have it. And see, the other thing, Biden can't go to the Ukraine. Why?
He's a criminal, ain't it? He alleged.
That's right. No, not well. He's alleged, but he's been indicted. And what is it? The U.S. Constitution says the supreme law of the land shall consist of this Constitution, such laws as passed by Congress to effectuate the Constitution, and such treaties as have been ratified by the Senate. And the United States is signatory to several ratified treaties with Ukraine. One of them says we will assist in the apprehension and extradition of criminal elements and honor the indictments and criminal processes of the other one. So Mr. Biden and his son Hunter Biden are subject to a several hundred count felony indictment for subornation of treason, extortion, bribery, and a number of other things. So, by the way, let's look at the law. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution says the president and vice president of the United States may be impeached and, if convicted, removed from office. The 12th Amendment says if they are convicted of articles of impeachment, they can no longer hold a public office. Now, what did they do to Mr. Trump? Well, they impeached him, returned articles of impeachment
Twice.
after he no longer was president of the United States. So they
Right.
set the precedent that somebody can be impeached and tried on those articles when they no longer hold office. Now, these articles that Biden is indicted for, well, the acts that he is indicted for occurred when he was vice president. But after this president, set by going after Trump, remember I told you before, they need to be careful what they ask for. They might get it.
Right.
Now that makes Joe Biden eligible for impeachment purposes and trial thereupon for actions allegedly committed when he was vice president. Now, here's the kicker. The impeachment process returns articles that the Senate tries, but it's a civil matter, so you don't have to establish that the individual is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of three things. One, bribery. Two, treason. Or three, general misdemeanors and felonies in office under the Constitution, Article 2, Section 4. You only have to prove them by the civil standard, more likely than not. And by American law, probable cause is essentially identical with more likely than not when it comes to a civil standard. So here this person is indicted with the same standard that we have. And there is a very close connection between probable cause to return an indictment and more likely than not that somebody committed these civil acts of, one, bribery. He's indicted for that. Two, we have Biden on stage at a C-SPAN thing 3 years ago in January, which I heard when it was live. And then once again, when it was replayed, he said, I guess I'm guilty of bribery. I told them that I was going to block this $14 billion loan guarantee if they didn't call this guy off of my son's case.
But they were trying to connect
And
Trump
by
to
the
Russia
way,
and Ukraine, doing that, you know.
yeah, but you see, here's the kicker.
Yeah.
Here's the kicker. The ratings that Biden has in the poll numbers are the lowest ever since they have been keeping these polls. Kamala Harris's are the lowest ever. Hers are even lower than Spiro Agnew, the vice president under Tricky Dick Nixon, who actually went to prison in Maryland and the prison in a federal penitentiary for his actions. Her ratings are lower than that. Now, every time a president is dropped below a certain standard, and they are way below that right now, their party has lost control of whatever chamber of Congress it was holding. So that means right now, the Democrats have 48 Democratic senators, 2 independents that caucus with them, and the Republicans have 50 U.S. senators, so that means they'll drop further behind. Next thing, that means they are likely to lose control of the House in the midterm election. So the House, being majority Republican after this upcoming election this year, will return articles of impeachment against Joe Biden. He'll get convicted by the Senate, and it's likely he'll be the first U.S. president who's actually convicted of articles of impeachment. And under the 12th Amendment, he wouldn't be able to run again in 2024. So what would we have? Kamala Harris Imhoff, while we whoopee. They better hope they get this woman on that they've nominated. And by the way, I know black judges who are familiar with her. I know some personally acquainted with some black female federal judges and some black lawyers who are commensurate and learned in federal law. Some fine black lady judges who ought to have had the nomination instead of this woman who hadn't done anything for her people in high school, didn't do anything in college, didn't do anything in law school, didn't take any pro bono cases, has had some cases wherein she bent over backwards and made statements on the record about they treat pedophiles too harshly and it's not their fault. There was one she gave 3 months suspended sentence to instead of the 9 to 10 years that was the federal average. And what did he do? He hadn't even got all probation because before they find he had stocked his computer up with more images of young children. All right. Lockheed Martin agreed on a $24.8 million settlement with black employees as a class, agreed to be certified as a class. She blocked that. Well, some people said it was because she thought the settlement was unfair. That isn't what happened. See, anytime you have a federal class action, you as a potential plaintiff can opt out of it, which means do you have cash in the bank to go hire yourself or retain yourself a lawyer if you can find one? Do you have money in the bank where you can go file and pay the steep filing fees in federal court? Do you have the money in the bank to pay the lawyer the hourly fees to go prosecute your case? Do you have the time to hang around for several years while the case goes through federal court? Or do you want to say, okay, we have in principle the agreement that will prevent them from doing this again, and all of us get to go in and get cash without even having to put our noses in court? Okay, fine. So nobody wants to talk about that. But of course, few of the people who are pontificating have ever practiced any kind of federal law. Next thing, we have another consideration. When the plaintiffs turned around and wanted to expand discovery, she said no. She protected Lockheed Martin. So she was lying about her motives. They do all the time because she wanted this. You see, her name should be Claretta Thomas Jackson. Why? Because she's another Clarence Thomas, but this time from the far left. And she's not any good for black folks. She's anti-family. She's not black friendly. She has what it on? Well, you know, I mean, that's her business, but the last time they had somebody like us on the Supreme Court was the great Thurgood Marshall, who was known as Mr. Baseball. You know why?
Well, you won so many Supreme Court cases or something like that, or why?
When he was traveling around the country to take these cases to defend and expand black rights, he said, I want two things when I get there: 12-gauge shotgun and a couple of boxes of buckshot and a good Louisville Slugger. And he was known as whipping head with that baseball bat when the Night Riders and the Klan and the White Citizens Council got on his case. He was no punk.
They didn't make a movie about that Thurgood Marshall story. I love to see that.
Not the one they did, because the person they had, who was the same actor that played Black Panther, played the flaming god, or the flamer in Gods of Egypt, played Jackie Robinson, played Joe Lewis, and played Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah,
Didn't
brother
look
Chadwick.
anything like Thurgood Marshall. Yeah,
but it was Thurgood Marshall's son, one of his sons that wanted him to play, because he gonna turn it down because he said, I don't even look like the guy. But it was Thurgood Marshall's
well, yeah,
son
but forget Thurgood
him.
Marshall's sons. Forget it. I don't know what the history is.
Sidney Poitier played
Marshall.
Thurgood Marshall. So you remember when Sidney Poitier played
him?
him?
But see, you know who could have played him?
Terrence
it looked
Howard.
like him.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Looked just like him in his early years. Why didn't they have Terrence Howard?
You know Lawrence Fishburne did a play on Thurgood, right?
Why didn't they have Terrence Howard? Yeah. Why didn't they have Fishburne? See, Thurgood Marshall, a high yellow Negro, black man.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Baseball didn't take crap. Jackie Robinson, by the way, see what they do to us? Why don't they honor Jackie Robinson as being the first somebody to make a stand and refused to move to the back of the bus instead of going 14 years into the future and picking Rosa Parks, who was one of 5 black women who got arrested for refusing to go to the back of the bus. Well, she was the only one that didn't have outside children or a criminal record. So they made a choice.
And she was high yellow too. She was high yellow.
Jackie Robinson. Yeah, Jackie Paperbag Brown. Bright. I met the lady. But how about this? 1943, Jackie Robinson, who had played at UCLA, gone through ROTC, was a captain in the U.S. Army, had been assigned to the 10th Cavalry Buffalo Soldiers, transferred to the 761st Armored Regiment based in Texas. He was officer of the day. He escorted his fellow officer's wife home, took a cab. The guy that replaced him as officer of the night, officer of the evening. He was in uniform. He decided to ride the bus back to the base. They told him to go to the back of the bus. He said, hell no. The testimony at his court martial was he pulled his 1911 45 ACP pistol, racked around in this chamber and said, quote, some MF is going to die tonight besides me. The Texas Rangers were there. The MPs were there. And the local were there. And there's Jackie, being a man, just like Emmett Till, going down with dignity, like somebody gonna die tonight besides me.
Yes, sir.
They acquitted him, and that's how he got into baseball. By the way, it's an interesting story. I've said this before, but it's interesting history. Jackie Robinson never played baseball in his life until he played pro. Did 2 things. He ran track, and he held the American record in the 100-yard dash and in the 220, and was part of UCLA's record-setting 4-man quarter-mile relay. He played halfback for UCLA as a football All-American. Also in the same backfield as wide receiver was Don Barksdale. Don Barksdale ran the 440, was NCAA champion in the 440, and ran the high hurdles. And guess what he did? He became the first brother to play in the NBA. He played for the Lakers. Kenny Washington, in the same backfield, who was also All-American like Barksdale and Robinson, was the quarterback for UCLA. UCLA got so much negative reaction and threatened lynchings and violence and broken bus windows that they changed, and they still have that change. The quarterback is known as the tailback. Guess who he played for? He got drafted by the Rams in the NFL. Rams, there you go. Lakers, and the Dodgers are where? Los Angeles now. So, interestingly enough, Jackie Robinson never played baseball. Don Barksdale never played basketball. Only Kenny Washington played football, but he was the quarterback, but the Rams made him a halfback. And he was the passing halfback, and one of their favorite plays was a triple handoff wound up with the ball in Kenny Washington's hand, and he would score a touchdown pass. Kenny Washington is interesting. The longest official pass ever thrown in official competition was by Kenny Washington in a football game at UCLA. I got a chance to see a film of it. UCLA recovered a fumble on their opponent's half-yard line. Kenny Washington faded back deep into UCLA's end zone and threw a pass that is credited with going 101 yards in the air. Wow. And Don Barksdale caught it. That's not 100-yard pass play, but 101 yards in the air.
Wow. That's incredible.
he used to pass quite frequently for the Rams. Hold on, let me get another statistic over here. Since we're talking about this. It's amazing what black folk did, but you see, Jackie Robinson, the baseball player, is pulled off as somebody that was passive. But you see, Jackie Robinson had a bodyguard when he played for the Dodgers. You know who he was?
The rifleman, right?
Connors.
Yeah.
The rifleman. That big, tall, blonde, blue-eyed white boy used to go bust all kinds of opposing players in the jaw and the mouth when they would mess with Jackie Robinson, because Jackie Robinson, see, I was looking this up here since I thought this would come up. Jackie Robinson wouldn't take anything off of anybody. I had the pleasure of talking to Don Newcomb, that got hired by the Dodgers, but he went to the minors. At the same time, they hired Jackie Robinson and Roy Campanella, who was the catcher.
Yeah,
he got in a car wreck. They didn't have seatbelts, broke his neck, and he became a paraplegic.
Yeah.
But Don Newcomb said, I wasn't but 17 years old. That was more than, and Don Newcomb is the only major league pitcher that has won every pitching award possible
He
to
was
win.
great. He was great in his time.
Man, but let me tell you about it, old boy. I was at a UCLA Black alumni function, and he showed up. He brought in the finest movie star looking woman. That's damn, man. That is outstanding. And he did not look his age. So he was telling me about Jackie. We talked for about 2-3 hours at that function, and he was telling me about Jackie Robinson had zero temper. He would go upside somebody's head in a minute. And I'm just thinking about it. Jackie Robinson and Connors could have been charged under this new anti-lynch thing, because Jackie was free with his words. You cracker, MF, blah, 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 blah. You know, this kind of thing. And that would have been part of the lynch stuff. See, this lynching does not require any specific numbers of people. Technically, one person could be charged with lynching another without him killing him, just striking a blow that say gave the guy a bloody lip or knocked a tooth out or something, or broke his nose.
This is insanity. I don't. Well, let me ask you. I'm gonna switch it up to the some couple of cases closer to home. I want to get your take. You know, Billy Ray Turner was sentenced to life for helping to kill Lorenzen Wright, the basketball star. So I know, what's your take on that whole thing? Was it the right call for him to be sentenced? Did you agree with Jimmy Martin?
Well, here's the thing. The jury sentenced him. See, in Tennessee, when you have a first-degree murder case, the state can announce we're seeking the death penalty, or life without possibility of parole, or automatic penalty if you're convicted of first-degree murder is life with the possibility of parole. If they demand life without possibility of parole is part of their sentencing phase, the jury, after convicting the defendant of first-degree murder, proceeds to determine whether it should be life without parole or just life. So a jury sets that sentence, not the judge. Now, if he's convicted of first-degree murder, then the Supreme Court of the state is going to assess what the sentence was. So it's not a matter of what do I think, it's what's going on in terms of the jury. Was the jury acting fairly?
I know,
And by the way, the judges have a cheat sheet that they fill out. They send up to the Supreme Court basically in 20-some pages, a questionnaire. Did this match the standards? Did the lawyers match the defense standards in your area? Does this sentence seem excessive? in light of your experience with other cases in the area. And see, the judge can't answer that if he has no experience. And we have judges that preside over cases that they've never tried as lawyers. We had a DA, Amy Werewich, that I think is a crook. She tried to pull off a deal fix in my courtroom. She was in front of Joe Daley, who was one of the worst racist judges we ever had on the bench, and he was the youngest. And she claimed that he was in trial, and she came over to my courtroom and wanted me to take a quick guilty plea on what she described as a minor drug case. What she announced was the woman was going to have the charges dropped against her, and the guy was going to plead out to 1 year upfront probation for 1 year, unsupervised for 1 year, and a small fine. And the man's charges, the young man's charges, were supposed to be dismissed against him at the end of the year, and his record expunged. I was looking at this like, well, aren't you going to tell the court? I didn't say anything on purpose, what the drugs were and how many. Well, just a minor drug case, Your Honor, very small quantity of drugs. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, General, but this court always has a hearing. So set this for hearing. So she wanted a date, and I said, no, that's outside of the 30-day limit. And if we have it outside of that, the court will lose jurisdiction. So we'll set it 26 days hence. Madam Clerk, please give everyone a date. We got the date. Okay, I'm noticing one thing that's peculiar. There's no defense lawyer on this case. We have the hearing, and I still don't see anything about the drug quantities or what the drugs were. I get to this part. Young man, the court is curious. You have no employment history. How do you manage to get the credit to purchase a brand new twin turbo Porsche 911 sports car? Well, Your Honor, I didn't need credit. I bought it cash. Well, I'll tell you what. Officer Duckett, would you please convey the court's compliments to Captain so-and-so over Metro Narco? And would you inquire as to whether it would be convenient for him to be in court day after tomorrow at, let's say, 10:30? Sure, Your Honor. So I bring him in, and I said, Captain, are you familiar with the matters? Oh, yes, Your Honor. Would you tell the court something about this case? Well, we've been working on it, intensive investigation for 3.5 years. We seized $800-some thousand in cash from the defendant. We got a pretty good bust. We're waiting for this matter to be indicted. Would it be of interest to you to know that the matter has been indicted? Well, we haven't heard anything about that, Your Honor. Well, would you wind up, please tell the court what was seized? 4 kilos of basically pure cocaine, about 4 kilos of pure heroin, 3,000 some hits of crystal meth, about close to 2,000 hits of Quaaludes, even 1,500 hits of LSD and some other Schedule 2 and Schedule 1 drugs, 800 some thousand in cash seized. They got a absolute airtight bust, recorded it on somebody who was wired. They videotaped the damn thing, and you give out an offer of 1 year suspended upfront unsupervised probation and expunged record, when that would be life in the penitentiary in the federal system, when that would be a minimum of 45 years in the state prison system? Oh, hell no. And she wanted to transfer it back to Joe Daley. I wouldn't allow it to happen. I wound up after I said it for trial and set this null process aside on this woman, because the captain is telling me she's part of it. So I set it for trial. They wound up pleading out to 10 years as range 2 offenders going to the Department of Corrections, so their sentences couldn't be suspended by a judge.
Wow.
Now, see, that's the kind of crooked stuff we have here in Shelby County. That is the real crime. When our district attorney here, Amy Weirich, has been found by the Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford law reviews to be the most crooked prosecutor in the United States. She's had personally more findings of prosecutorial misconduct against her than any other DA's office in America has collectively. That includes Los Angeles, which is #1 in criminal prosecutions, New York, which is #2, Chicago, which is #3, Dallas, which is #4, Memphis, which is #5 in absolute numbers of criminal prosecutions, Houston, which is #6, Miami, which is #7, and Detroit, which is and collectively, the district attorney's offices for all of these places don't have as many findings for any one office as Amy Weirich has personally of prosecutorial misconduct by name, where the state Supreme Court or the Court of Criminal Appeals finds that she engaged in criminal prosecutorial misconduct, perjuring herself to a court that asked her some specific questions that the Supreme Court noted specifically involving some properties that Danny Owens owned down here on Airways in Winchester that she and her husband were trying to buy. This thing with the most recent murder, I forget the young lady's name, where she was convicted supposedly a mother, and some black female criminal investigators that had filed an EEO complaint were told they got one of 28,000 untested rape kits tested, and they found DNA from a known person who was a white United Methodist preacher up in Jackson, Tennessee, and his DNA was all over the house, and he had had sex with Nora Jackson's mother just a couple of hours before she was slain, and Weirich's office framed Nora Jackson. See, this is the kind of crap going on where there is that thing with a prosecutor that had been assigned to my courtroom for 3 years, wherein he concealed evidence that would have exonerated somebody charged with murder. And there are 14 homicide cases, murders, that were set aside by the state Supreme Court because of prosecutorial misconduct. But guess what?
What?
Every one of the 14 involved a white defendant. Think about all of the black ones where this didn't happen, because there is racism in the court system. Think about this. The Justice Department found that here in Shelby County, Tennessee, sentences for simple possession of marijuana, this equal numbers of white and black youthful defendants get arrested for simple possession of marijuana, but 95% of those who are prosecuted are black, where there is absolutely no control over what happens at juvenile court, although she's supposed to be in charge of this, wherein juvenile court has subsumed the operations of the Attorney General's office in juvenile court and does this under contract, which is unlawful because no judicial officer, judge down at juvenile court, is supposed to have that kind of authority. And in 1986, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals for the United States, in a case called Sevier versus Turner, said no judge in America can exercise this authority. Well, they still do, and that is 36 years later.
Mm.
They're still doing what has been declared illegal. And down here, 54% of the juveniles confined as adults in the state of Tennessee come from Shelby County, and 95% of them are black.
Okay, well, we gluttons for punishment down here for some reason, but I
See, and
know.
this kind of see,
Mhm.
and one other thing, this is so important. In 2008, the feds put the money up to replace all of the deball voting machines. The feds under Bush, Obama, and Trump said there hasn't been a fair election in Shelby County since 2000 because the machines are hacked. There's no way you can reprogram them. And all somebody has to do is activate the hack. And California has a pamphlet online showing how to fix an election here. So the
Okay.
point is, people say, oh, all we need is a heavy turnout. We've been having a heavy turnout, but it doesn't make any difference. To streamline the thing so the folk that didn't take math can get it is, let's say that you want your candidate for DA to win. You say they're going to get 58%, 58.2% of the vote. You set that. So you take the encryption code, which I published personally, just to make sure it's out there so they can't claim nobody knew it. You take the office number, which is out there, that has to be published by the election commission, and you take the candidate numbers, and that's published. So what happens is, using the formula California publishes, you just say, I want my candidate to get 58.4% of the vote. So what happens is, every time somebody votes, it doesn't make any difference who they vote for, candidate A or B. Candidate A gets 58% of that one vote. Now, it doesn't add up, but what the computer does is juggle the numbers until they get an even number. You can tell it because when they have a write-in count, you'll get something ridiculous like 27.875 people voted for this candidate. You can't have 0.875, you have to have one. But that's not generally paid any attention to. And if you see that, that's a red flag that the cheat was on. Also, what happens is, if the candidates get their poll workers later to go in and inspect the machines, they will find that you got 2 candidates for the office, but 5 candidate numbers, 6,400, 2,000 votes are in the categories for these 3 non-existent candidates, so you can get the numbers to balance. So it doesn't make any difference how heavy the turnout is. The results are going to be as dictated. That candidate will get 58.4% of the vote. Now, one thing, down in 2014, I spent one whole day down at the election commission downtown, and we noted that by count, 512 folk early voted. The election commission claimed there were only 218 people that early voted. Right now, they have acquired some new machines because the county commission was threatened by the feds with being individually sued if they didn't spend the money. Well, the objection now is that the machines can identify who voted for who. But what they do is, they've got an old-time cash register tape. So when you vote, you get a cash register tape that reflects who you voted for. And that vote count is kept on another tape. So at the end of the day, or any time during the day, the poll workers for a candidate can come pull the tapes and look at what the vote count is. But some people don't want it. And guess who the some people are?
What was that?
3 black Democrats who have been voting against it for the last 16 years, 14 years. All it takes is a simple majority resolution. We, the Below San County Commissioners, hereby resolve that these D-ball voting machines shall be replaced. Sign off, and if you get the majority, done deal. Each time we get at least 3 black Democratic county commissioners who are bought off and corrupted or extorted into voting against it. Now, it's not been the same since they term out, but they are identifiable, and their names need to be made mud, and they need to be so embarrassed and exposed that they can never win another public office because they sold us out. Why in the hell would you, as a black anybody, vote against replacing corrupted machines? By the way, California used to use them. They threw them in the ocean. Hawaii threw theirs in the ocean. Ohio threw theirs in the lake. Florida used to use them, but they had card voting devices, so you didn't press a button, you punched the card. That was all that dangling Chad nonsense back when
Gore and
Bush beat Gore in 2000 in Florida. By the way, speaking of somebody that could have been put on the federal court, there was a black lady judge down there that didn't handle it. She's a damn fine judge. They didn't put her for being on the Supreme, to nominate her for being in the Supreme Court. Judge Bernice Donald, right out of Memphis, is a fine judge. I mentored her. She's a great judge. She was on the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. She took senior judge status, but you can ask her to come back. You could have nominated her.
Yeah.
There is a Judge Roger Reed Clifton in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. Fine lady judge. You could have nominated her.
I mean, but certain folks play ball on
And
certain
all
levels.
of these.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
see, what the
but
bottom line is, all of them that should have been on that Supreme Court actually did something for black folk when they had the chance to. And see, I used to hear this. Oh, Joe, man, it's like they're just waiting so they could get in a position where they could really do something, man. No, they're not, because by the time they get there, they're too damn old, lame, and tired to do a damn thing, and they don't have the habit of it. If you're going to do something like Thurgood Marshall, me, H.T. Lockett, A.W. Willis, Russell Sugarman, A.A. Ladding, or that bunch, they did from day one what they were supposed to do. And by the way, why don't we name a street after H.T. Lockett? He filed all of the actions that integrated Memphis State University, now University of Memphis, integrated the high schools around here, integrated the junior high, now middle schools around here, integrated the elementary schools around here, integrated the parks around here, integrated the damn courtrooms around here. When I made my first appearance in this circus kangaroo court known as the Memphis and Shelby County Juvenile Court in 1974, that place hadn't been integrated but about a year. In other words, black lawyers couldn't even walk off in the courtroom.
Wow.
Without invitation.
I want to ask you also about the former state senator, what's her name, Katrina Robinson, who was the former sister-in-law Lorenzen Wright. Her sentence, like, she basically got time served, 1 year supervised vision. What's your take on that?
Should have been thrown under the damn jail. We need to stop all of this election corruption. And all of these Negroes tell me or told me, not her, I haven't talked to her, but the rest of them, Joe, man, white folk been doing it all this time. It's our turn to get the gravy. No, it's not. It's your turn to do right, damn it. Your people want right, not being sold out and using tax dollars for your own little comfort. See, one of the big problems is in Tennessee. And, when I learned this, when I was in the 5th grade in Los Angeles, California, we studied it. One of the reasons they have such awful corruption in Southern politics is these positions are part-time and they pay very little money. You need to make full-time and get their full-time attention and pay them a good salary, which makes corruption and taking bribes a disincentive.
Right.
Like the Democratic Party, Brett Thompson. He handles all of their PR. He's a multiply convicted felon, disbarred for years.
Wow.
And they've got him running their public relations and putting out their sample ballots and he just got arrested. He's presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But again, extortion, bribery, not bribery, extortion, theft, and embezzlement, and impersonating an attorney. Victims were allegedly old folk. He just got arrested last month.
Wow.
And by the way, we might want to ask why he was meeting with Judge Mark Ward in chambers as a convicted felon. Judge Mark Ward is judge of Division 9 criminal courts, of which I was the first judge, followed by Reverend J.C. McLean, and why he met with him immediately before Judge Mark Ward, granted the second motion for new trial to be granted in the last 32 years in Shelby County. And I know because I granted the first one. And why that person that he granted the motion for new trial for was somebody that had 16 prior felony convictions, that was working on the Central Committee as a member of the executive committee of the Democratic Party. Why do they have a 16-time convicted felon?
That's interesting. Also, I got to actually speak to somebody, local activist Pamela Moses. Like they gave her 6 years, and she's gonna get a new trial allegedly in April.
Who do you think I was talking about?
Pamela Moses.
And by the way, I told her personally, I was not representing her. She was on the Love Power show with Wallace Red. You know Wallace Red. And she got to talking that nonsense then. I told her then, I said, you can't do that. You'll go to jail. She told me I didn't know what I was talking about. So you can't fill that out. That's up to some officials. You can't do that. Yes, I can. So what did she do? She already had 16 felonies in her career. She's been involuntarily committed for mental health issues. She has a habit of stalking the judges that have conducted the civil proceedings, including some that are personal friends of mine that she's caused great grief to. She jumped out of a car, caused a big pileup on the freeways one time when she got loose from some handcuffs while she was being transported down. She was in front of my campaign headquarters. She was trying to plagiarize some works dealing with juveniles that one of the people in my headquarters had drafted. She was selling them allegedly, or hell, I'd make the accusation to the Democratic Party. I told them to get her out of there, and then I came back half hour later. There were 7 squad cars out in front of my headquarters because she'd been cutting up. Right down here on Winchester Boulevard, across from what is that? The Overcomers Church, where they got the statue
of liberation.
Yeah, okay. This particular evening, some political stuff was going on. I stopped by, and down the street, I think it was Picky D's, some gangbangers fired some shots. They thought they'd run off in the club. The club management called the police. I'm leaving the place because I went in there and spoke to some people. And here comes Pam Moses, and she says, Judge, aren't you going to stop them from ruining the evening of these people who are having a good time in the club? I said, better stay away from there. And she goes up and throws herself in the doorway and grabs each side. You can't come in and disrupt these people's fun. Police are saying, lady, we got called, and the management's going, ma'am, would you please move yourself? There's some people we think with guns off in here. You can't come in. So they arrested her. But of course, that was supposed to be police misconduct. Now, granted, she's apparently, allegedly got some mental health issues, and maybe she needs treatment. But over and over again, civil judges have found cause for what used to be a 603 commitment, involuntary commitment, where the police or family members call for help on somebody who allegedly is a threat to sell for others. So she's got a long history with this. So, okay. I don't know what the defense was, but, this hadn't even gone up on appeal. So motion for new trial, Judge Ward, Division 9. I was the first judge of it, and my portrait is up in the courtroom. You have a meeting with a multiply convicted felon who was convicted of moral turpitude, crimes of dishonesty, embezzlement, theft, and forgery, and you have a meeting with him right before you have the hearing? Oh, come on now.
I mean,
That's
this
an
is new.
allegation,
I mean, Judge,
but it was
that's
a
another.
reliable source.
Well, how she's painted now because she had the Guardian do an article on. She been on a couple of national media platforms. I heard about her being eccentric, but I didn't know to the extent what you're talking about. I didn't know that was like, you know, because she's a member of the Black Lives Matter chapter. I know they have been helping her at the national level.
Of course. And by the way, an argument that was had on the Love Power show.
Mm-hmm.
Lady, are you trying to tell me that the problems Black people have in Memphis are not the real political issue, but it is that Black people don't treat the gay community right? That is the number one pressing issue? She said it was.
She said that on a platform, really?
Yeah, it was there.
Oh, I mean, it's like I went to school with Lee Harris, right? The Shelby County mayor. It is. I don't know what to say. I don't know what the.
He's a damned idiot, and I personally don't like him. You know why?
Why?
He and his wife have been working about 15 hours each as professors at the University of Memphis. And not one time have they taken a pro bono case for benefit of the citizens of this city and county to represent them in some of the things that need to be represented in. For instance, these election machines.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, criminal justice reform. For instance, zoning variances that have a problem with their impacts on Black communities. For instance, this pipeline. Well, I guess he's mayor. He can't do that, can he? Since he's complicit in bringing the damn thing in.
Really? Talking about Bahia one or is a new one?
The one that's coming in, going through North Memphis, where we don't get one damn dime from it.
I mean, this is Mason, Tennessee, and this stuff. I mean, Black folks, the majority of people don't benefit from these things, it seems like.
No, they don't. So why in the hell should he be a mayor when he doesn't have a damn clue? He can't even walk through half the neighborhoods he supposedly represents without an armed guard, without getting his ass kicked.
Well, I do, Judge. I want to thank I want to thank you, Judge, for spending this time like educating us.
And once somebody that has indicated he wants to run for, I don't know whether it's county or city mayor, but he better have a good and damn good explanation for why he and Miss Tammy Sawyer passed a resolution they can't get for the voting machines to sell the two parks where Nathan Bedford Forrest statue used to be and Jeff Davis statue used to be for $2,500 per park without it being up for bid to a corporation that Van Turner chartered, and as a lawyer, he knows the damn conflict rules, but he violated them along with Tammy Sawyer, so they bought the two statues, not the two statues, the two parks for $2,500 a piece. Wow. Developers are often millions of dollars for each of those parks because one's on the bluff and the other one's right in the middle of that hospital complex. Why don't the citizens get that money? Why wasn't it put up with a bid? Hell, I'd have written a lot bigger check for those properties. Next thing, why is it instead of Nathan Bedford Forrest and Jeff Davis being donated to a Confederate museum, why is it that somebody's half-brother's getting paid allegedly $5,000 a month to store those statues? How many years has it been?
Yeah, why? Yeah, about to be 5 in December. Yeah, wow.
5 times 12, that's 60 months at $5,000 a month. Why are we doing that? And why does it go to them? Understood that they pay, I think the original lease price for the storage facility was $96 a month.
Oh my God. I just can't. Man,
And you want to run for mayor of Memphis or Shelby County and you got that track record? Your ass needs to be in jail.
Well, wow. Just but like you were saying, that mentality, well, they've been doing this, so why can't we do it? It's our turn to do it now.
It's not your
do
turn.
better than that.
It's your turn to follow the damn law and help your people out instead of selling them to hell. This place ought to have hydroelectric power down in the Mississippi for free green energy, just the cost of the maintenance, to drop the utility bills for everybody, to sell the excess energy to Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Arkansas, North, South Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, and Illinois. Okay? This is the distribution capital of the United States.
Right.
The barges that go back down the Mississippi bring these barge loads of goods that have been loaded up on these barges, put on an ocean-going barge transport in Europe, shipped to the port of New Orleans. The barges floated out of the transports, brought up to Memphis, where on President's Island, which is the largest barge unloading facility in the world, that's where they run through customs. These electric cars produced by Ford and Cadillac ought to be put on, shipped back down on barges to New Orleans. The barges floating on ports, and then some of the transports unloaded in the Mediterranean to deliver these electric cars to Europe. Some of them go all the way through the Mediterranean, through the canal, and then on into Asia, where they can deliver them to India, China, South Korea, going through the Suez Canal, to South Africa, to Kenya, all sorts of places. Can you see what that would do? Like you pointed out, this is on the way to being a new Detroit area. And Cadillac will be shipping that stuff through here. Ford will be shipping that stuff through here. And the word I got is the ones that we talked about earlier actually pulled the strings, so these big factories did not get located in Memphis because the amount of territory that would be required, guess what? They don't control it. And to lease it, rent it, or acquire it would be very expensive, where they can go up here to Monroe and they can get control of it at rural agricultural pricing.
Yeah, this stuff. Joe, let me ask you, have you watched the TV show Yellowstone? Are you hip to that?
I've seen previews. I haven't looked at it.
I think you will love it. I think it's up your alley, man. It blow my mind because what they talking about in that show is happening in real time right now.
Yeah. So I mean, why? And then the other thing, why can't we have not community policing, but a civilian-run police department, just on the model of the Pentagon?
Yeah.
You see, you have a civilian Secretary of Defense, civilian Secretary of Army, Navy, Air Force, etc. You have civilian subheads. We need a director, civilian, under the mayor's authority, just like the Secretary of Defense gets appointed by the president, subject to his removal. You need civilian sub-chief, somebody over sex crimes, uniform patrol, traffic, theft, homicide, burglary, robbery squad, juvenile squad, somebody civilian over that. You need some sub-precincts. You need civilians who are integrated into this process with police, communications, who can collect information about what's going on. Hell, maybe we need to have a local militia to take control of the neighborhood, so under the direction of the police department and the mayor's office, we have peace instead of all of these homicides and incidents of violence that are so endemic.
Yes, sir.
You know, maybe we need to have the police assist in identifying potential youthful leadership. So instead of the police activity being slanted on taking juveniles down to this corrupt, privatized juvenile court that has an interest in screwing families up to generate future business for corporate profitability, maybe we need something like the police identifying these potential leaders, inviting them into some programs that I'll help set up, and we can turn them into leaders. And my experience is when you take somebody that's potentially a gangster and you put him in a leadership position where it is a respectable leadership position, he'll get stricter than the police will. He'll get stricter than the adults will. We need to take these high schools and pick one or two of them where we let the juveniles do what they've done at my alumnus, Dorsey High in Los Angeles, where they have a teen court, where it is a real one. Under the auspices of the police department handling these juvenile matters, we let the kids hear the cases, represent the defendants, and decide on recommended punishments. You see, this kind of thing is something we can get into, where we take these kids who are going astray and say, okay, we got you now. We're not your mama. We're not going around talking about, as long as you bring mama the cash she wants, you all right no matter what you do. We're going to make you do some stuff that's for your own good. We're going to hook up some stuff with these unions so you get vocational training in unions. You don't want to be fighting it because guess what? You get apprentices who will become dues-paying members, and unions will get their strength back. Look at this filth along the highways, the freeways in Memphis and Shelby County. Oh, it's trash and garbage just all over the places. What's happened to these jackasses on the criminal court bench? Can't they order some of their probationers to do community service and put some of these lime green jackets on and pick some of this trash up on the side of the road? I used to do it. I'd drive through and say, oh, this is filthy. And I'd call the probation department, send 20 of the people that are under my supervision out there, and I'll call the captain at such and such precinct. Captain, we got a problem out there. Yeah, it's pretty dirty, Judge. Can you supervise them? Yes, sir, I'll do that. See, what's happened with this? Where we take people and we put them in position to control the public peace in their communities. Why can't we have arbitration proceedings that are paid for by the city so the citizens can use a court system or an arbitration system they have to resolve interpersonal disputes? That's why we have courts in the first place, so the citizenry doesn't take matters into their own hands. In other words, have a shooting feud, a shootout at high noon on Main City or down there on Main Street in Memphis somewhere. But you see, the courts are priced out of the reach of most people. Why can't we have them submit these things to arbitration proceedings where lawyers aren't allowed to practice so we can get dispute resolution and reduce some of the frustration and stress that goes on? Bring in some law students, some paramedics to help prepare the paperwork. See, why can't we do that? What about this situation here where Memphis Light, Gas, and Water needs some professional management, where there is a group of people, hell, my niece is one of them. They found that these clean-out shunts that were supposedly going into the lines from the houses to the sewer lines on the streets, they were just blanks. They weren't even connected. And sewers are backing up because guess what? Some of the outlines don't even go to the sewer. They just go right into holes in the dirt, which have packed up after 15, 25 years. So now they have all this foul, polluted sewage that is poisoned their yards. What's wrong with that? Where people who don't have any damn street lights have been paying $12 a month for 20, 25 years for street lighting. Where is that going? Why is it that Cohen, congressman for the 9th district, got his buddy
the deal to sell energy to Memphis Light, Gas, and Water for a greater cost than we were getting it from TVA. What's going on here?
Oh, Judge, you made some great valid points, but I'm gonna go ahead sign off because they got the sirens going on and the emergency tweets talking about take cover till 5:30. But I want to thank you so much for being that calm in the middle of the storm, bringing that logic and on the way you know how to do it. And also, I want to make sure that people support your endeavors, which also includes, of course, your Judge Joe Brown barbecue sauce. So you have any parting words?
JJBBBQ.com. There you go.
So thank you so much,
stuff.
Yeah, it is actually good stuff. I'm gonna have
we
to give
will
me
be
some.
expanding, and we will be on the shelf in a few months, and you can order it. Judge Joe Brown, JJB Barbecue, BBQ.com. Order yourself some. It's very good. You never have tasted anything better. There's even a drink. It's a stand-in for the Bloody Mary. Instead of tomato juice, Tabasco, vodka, and a sprig of celery, what you need is this barbecue sauce, thin down, add some vodka and a sprig of celery, and you got a hot Joe. There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Judge. And the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. You keep on producing and pushing. Also stay safe and protected, man. It's crazy right now out here. It's like pandemonium.
Service and sauce. There you go.
Service and sauce. Thank you so much, Judge. We appreciate you.
JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown.
Send Brown downtown in 2023. I like that. I love that. There's going to be a new, not only sheriff, but mayor in town. I heard that. But thank you, Judge. Appreciate you.
All right. Take it easy.
You too. And family, thank y'all so much for tuning in and tuning out and getting with the program, which is We All Be News Free Dixie for the 21st century. Like I said, this they got the sirens going off. And they normally tornadoes don't touch down in Memphis. They normally go around either in Mississippi or Arkansas. And when we do get a twist of the touchdown, they don't call it a tornado, they call it a windstorm. So we blessed to be that city on the bluff. But there's no bluffing with Mother Nature or Mother Nurture. Now, we do have the capacity, the capabilities. That's not we as in the government and other entities. They have been on record saying that they can manipulate weather. I had a chance to meet former Secretary of Defense under Bill Clinton, William Cohen, at Baba Dick Gregory's homegoing. And she got the quote he said about weather manipulation back in the 90s. He actually said that they had the technology back then to mess around with the weather. So whether you agree or disagree, there's something going on in the atmosphere. These are some very strange times that we are living in. So y'all be safe out there. Take care and be aware. If you like the words from Brother Herb, please subscribe to We All Be TV. You can support the movement with donations, Cash App, $ R2C2H2. You can also PayPal, Google Pay, and Zelle your support at R2C2H2@gmail.com. You can Vimo your support at R2C2H2. You can also buy Art of His Art, R2C2H2.com. You can wear Art of His Art. Go below the video and below the description box. That's the official shelf from our official Teespring store. So y'all check out R2C2H2 place. Check it out. Let me also thank Black Voltron Reloaded for your diligence and also support and commitment to being a great moderator. We appreciate you. Like a fireman on a moment's notice, you came on down, man. I appreciate that. And it's 5 o'clock, but the sirens are going down. Man, just be safe out here. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I mean, this is better than a movie. You can't make this stuff up. But before I get out of here, let me read a disclaimer, right? Disclaimer, we had a lot of interesting stuff on here, and I believe in freedom of expression. I believe in the First Amendment. No doubt. Disclaimer, the views expressed by hosts and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with those viewpoints and expressions which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information, and letting the general public be the ultimate judge and decide on how to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support, and thank you all so much. Like I said, let this be a starting point for your deep dive into finding information, because information is power and knowledge is one of the currencies of the universe. So let's take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, be patient, be loving, and most of all, be lovable. And in the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. One love. And thank y'all for the support. And who all will give and will continue to give. I thank you all. And know that the best is yet to come. Appreciate you. One love.